Make sure I look pretty. Oh, shit, we're live. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chatting with Nuts. This is episode number 9. We're almost to the amount of fingers that I have. Not so much Logan 9 fingers, but we've kind of maxed out on him. I'm excited to be back. I see a lot of people already up in the chat. And this I feel like each time I do this, which now it's every other week, I get more and more people in the pre-lobby, and I get more and more nervous as I see them piling in. Like there's an expectation on the show now. That's why I decided to bring out the big guns. I said, we got to bring in somebody who's going to make a splash. And that is my guest today, man carrying thing, Jake, as he prefers to be called. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. This has been the highlight of my week. I'm like, let's go. Chatting with the fantasy beefcake right here. You know?
Yeah, that's right. The booktube beefcake. And we got the man that's carrying something we don't know what he's carrying. That is the biggest mystery we have on the platform.
It's, 10 years down the road, I'll probably say what it is, but I can't reveal that now.
You could also just never finish it like George or a Martin, and then it would still, what was it the whole time? We'll never know, right?
We may never know. Yeah.
We may never know.
It's a good point. Scary. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's pressure. It's kind of I know you read Dark Tower. You read the afterwards for Dark Tower, right? When he's talking about the pressure of finishing Dark Tower before, he dies. And I thought that was so morbid, but also so like real. And I feel like you're under that pressure now. I feel like you have to eventually fulfill this mystery of whatever you're carrying.
I mean, I feel like more of the pressure, like a lot of people are pressured to like finish the fantasy series they're writing. I'm just feeling pressured to read all of the Wheel of Time before I die. I feel like that's a lot. Like that's a lot for me personally to handle. So we'll see.
It is interesting because I started the Wheel of Time and I felt pretty damned overwhelmed when I started it. But I've read Realm of the Elderlings. I'm on the last book. It has 4.1 million words. Wheel of Time has 4.4 million, I believe. So they're really close. And for some reason, Realm of the Elderlings felt like nothing. Like it felt like, I breezed through it. But Wheel of Time, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, I got a whole shelf of them. I'm like, why did I buy these all at once? This was a mistake.
That's such a booktube thing. Buy the entire series. You're going to love it. So you have to buy every single book. And then it's just staring at you for the rest of your life. And you can't escape it.
Dude, I don't even love it. That's the problem. Like, I like it. But like I don't love it. Like it takes up a whole. It is so inconvenient. Like I've now
every time you move, there's going to be like a whole box that's just the Wheel of Time box.
Just staring at Blandal 4 in his stupid red coat.
Damn! I just started. Eye of the World this week.
Yeah, I saw you put up a poll, and leaving it up to chaos is what you're inviting when you do something like that. Did you think it would be Wheel of Time?
I should have expected that. I like to think I'm smarter than that, but apparently not. I was like, oh, I don't know. It'll probably because I had Malazan already. I'd bought Malazan. I was like, I'll just read Malazan, whatever. And no, but it's Wheel of Time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm good with it either too. I'm excited for Wheel of Time, and I'm actually really liking it.
Yeah, so I actually love Eye of the World. So Christian from Lost in Discovery, he started his foray down the Wheel of Time rabbit hole, and he liked Eye of the World, but he said, man, these inn scenes, like he messaged like these inns and these tavern scenes are murdering me. And me personally, I don't know about you, I love those scenes. Like those were my favorite moments.
I love those inn scenes because I don't know, there's something about the book that's like the slower it gets, the more fun it is. I don't know, just like the little weird details and the inn stuff, the songs, the storytelling. It's just like it's very Christian said it best. He said it's very cozy. And that's what I feel like. It's like a really cozy, warm blanket to chill out with. I like it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think I started the Wheel of Time right around Christmas. It was like in the winter. It is very much a by the fire, it's cold outside kind of book. Like there are definitely books I go to, and it doesn't surprise me that one of those books happens to be Fellowship of the Ring. And Eye of the World is extremely Tolkien derivative. So that's not that big of a shocker, I would say. Do you feel like all the Tolkien derivative stuff? Like, can you feel it as you're reading it?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, though, because I've never read Lord of the Rings. So I'm just like, oh, this is great.
You've never read Lord of the Rings? Wow. I mean, I'm not
No.
that shocked by that, to be honest with you. People pretend like they're extremely digestible, and I think it's a little ridiculous to say that. Like, they're not the most modern, engaging books nowadays. I mean, I still love Lord of the Rings. Don't get me wrong. It's what got me into fantasy, but it doesn't actually shock me that much whenever I hear that people haven't read Lord of the Rings. And I see a lot of people, that will argue, hey, the movies are better. And I'm like, yeah, probably. Like, probably. Have you watched the movies then?
Oh yeah, I love the movies.
Okay.
Yeah, the movies are great. But yeah, I read The Hobbit when I was a kid, and then I tried reading Fellowship like at the same time, and I was like, not really for me right now. But I have them. I want to read them. It's just haven't gotten to them yet. So
yeah, I'll tell you what. I actually I like The Hobbit more than the trilogy. I really do. The Hobbit for me.
The Hobbit movies, yeah, I agree. They're better than Lord of the Rings. You heard it, folks. Jimmy Nutt said it.
That's about as hot as my take when I said I liked Shallan more than Kaladin in Way of Kings.
I'm with you on that. I like Shallan.
Yeah, I actually watched, dude. I watched your Way of Kings review. I was losing my mind, dude. If people in the chat, if you have not watched Jake's review of the Way of Kings, I think it's like your second or third video. It's one of your very first videos. Oh my god! Whenever I can't say it because it's a spoiler.
But I can't even watch it. I haven't watched it since. I'm like so nervous.
Dude, I watched it. I was laughing so hard. A certain character that passes away, and you're like, I'm glad he's dead. Get a real hobby. And I was like, my eyes were bulging out of my head laughing. I was like, this is so perfect. And there's people like in the comments, and they're like, other than this person, hating this character so much, I really liked your review.
I feel like that was the hubris of like being young on booktube. I'm like, nobody's watching this. There's like 50 views. I'll just say whatever I want. And now it's like picking up views. I'm like, I don't remember what I said. I hope,
dude,
I hope it's not too bad.
My Way of Kings review, I filmed it like I had just moved. I read the book over like a month and a half. It took me a while compared to the other books I've read. I usually read pretty quickly. So like my review is very scatterbrained. Like I don't think it's one of my better reviews, and it has like 15,000 views. And I'm like, why? Like, why does this? Obviously it's because it's Sanderson, right? But
yeah.
It is funny how we make videos and we don't want to go back and watch them, but people are going back and watching them. Have you had anyone comment on your videos and like, hey, can't wait till you review the next one? And you're like, I already did. Like this video is a year old. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, all the time there's like, I don't know, you probably get this, just like random comments in videos you made feels like forever ago. And just like, oh, I can't wait for you to talk about more Faulkner books. I'm like, yeah,
we're
I'm
past
sure that
Faulkner stage.
A little past that. I mean, maybe at some point, but the demand for William Faulkner is not super hot right now.
Yeah, he's on the dip. I would say he's very much like GameStop stock. He's kind of in the dip. You can buy in now, and it's going to pay dividends later, whenever that eventual wave of Faulkner comes back. But right now,
I'm just waiting for the Amazon series. I'm waiting for the Amazon Absalom series.
Did you feel like it was a good time to read Wheel of Time because of the show coming out?
Yeah, no, but for real, like Daniel Green threatened me, like. Because he knows like people on YouTube, so he's like, I can shut down your channel, and I'm like, all right, Mr. Green, like you know the boss of YouTube, so he's like, I'll shut down your channel if you don't start Wheel of Time, and that's just how it works, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird. I published a novella. It was called The Securement of War, and he he pulled strings and got it pulled from the shelves. I was in Barnes and Noble and everything, but it's gone now, unfortunately. But
he has a lot of power.
Yeah. It's what's your least favorite thing about goblins?
Oh, everything.
I think they smell bad. I think that's like the biggest thing.
I don't know. Goblins, they're fine. I don't encounter too many goblins on a regular basis, except for the aforementioned one, and he's, chaotic. So
yeah, it's like you can't shake them off. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of stuck with it now.
No.
I mean, I'm really excited for this Wheel of Time show, though. On a real note, we saw the logo reveal was pretty cool. So I was kind of curious to see how the fandom reacted, because a lot of people love the wheel. Like the wheel is iconic. Every chapter ends with the wheel symbol, and they didn't go with that for the show. And I was very curious to see the response to that, but I didn't feel like I saw as much discourse around that as I thought I would.
I think people are just going to be happy getting anything at this point, like Wheel of Time people. I think I think a lot of people are just kind of expecting like there's going to be a lot of changes. There have to be changes. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. I feel like the Wheel of Time fandom is the most like critical of themselves as more than any other fandom, except for like Star Wars, maybe.
Star Wars
just like
is number one. Star Wars is number one for sure.
yeah, Star Wars is number one, but I mean, like, they're just like so aware. I feel like I'll talk to like Wheel of Time fans. They're like, you got to read Wheel of Time. It sucks, but I love it. You got to read it.
Yeah, it's the only fandom other than Star Wars where someone tells you you need to do it, and then within 5 seconds tells you that about a third of it sucks. Because in Star Wars is worse, right? They said there's only 3 good movies, and then all the rest of them suck. Don't watch the rest of them, or watch them and then hate them with me. It's kind of like and that's the slog, right? Like the slog. When you talk to these Wheel of Time fans, like Alex, my friend here on BookTube, he just vanquished the slog, and it's like a rite of passage for the fandom, right? It's kind of like the prequels, I think, for a lot of people in Star Wars. But yeah, I'm interested to see. This is like the first thing we've seen that's kind of, I would say, deviated hardcore, right? That very little that we've had is just that symbol being gone. I'm like, okay, people seem to accept it pretty well. So maybe there's hope that the we'll call them hardcores, for lack of a better term, will be okay with the adaptations. Because you're right, they're gonna have to change a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people are gonna love it though. I just have a hunch about it. I don't know.
I think of the scenes in Eye of the World, right? So how far are you in Eye of the World?
Oh, I'm like 300 pages probably.
Okay, so you're starting to get on the dusty trail. You're starting to move along then.
We're moving along.
Yeah.
We're bar hopping,
Yeah, there's a fellowship of sorts.
Of sorts, yeah.
I think it's pulling up to those locations in that first book, because I think Robert Jordan does an exquisite job of setting a scene. I think if there's anything to say about his strengths of his writing, I think that's, like, for me, his scene setting is one of his best traits. And whenever we get to see some of these locations on screen, it's going to be pretty epic. I think of like Bravos, like when we saw Bravos in Game of Thrones, it blew my mind. Like it was like, oh my God, this is epic, right? Or seeing the Shire, right? The Shire, those type of things, like seeing just the landscape in Old Ryan Land and Wheel of Time, I think is going to be pretty epic. And I think a lot of people are just going to be like, you're right. I think people are going to be very happy just to see it on screen.
Well, I think Jordan is such a visual writer, so just the descriptions are so detailed, like even more so than like reading Sanderson or a lot of writers. I feel like I'm getting into the Wheel of Time, and a lot of the enjoyment is just seeing the world so clearly and visually. I will say, however, that starting the book was pretty rough, because I don't know if this is in every edition, but there was like a prologue before the prologue where like they're all children. Did you read that too?
Wait, really? I'm trying to remember.
So like there's the prologue, the Dragon Mountain prologue, the famous one, but there was another. Yeah, there was one before it where it's like from Egwene's perspective. Egwene, I don't know. Egwene. But it's from her perspective, and they're all children, and they're just like hanging out at a party, and it was super long and really slow. So. I don't know if that's in every book, but it was in my book. I'm like, this is a weird start.
Interesting, because like I don't remember. Maybe it's been a while since I've read Out of the World, so maybe I'm forgetting it. The pre-prologue is only in the anniversary edition.
Oh, okay. Thank
you. Yeah, I did not know this. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So you had that. What did you think about the famous prologue? I'm actually interested to see your thoughts on that.
I really liked it. It was a lot. And I like that. I like the kind of stuff where it's just like really ambiguous, like something's happening, something crazy, and then it's just like, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was cool.
Yeah. So if you haven't read Wheel of Time, this isn't a spoiler, but the prologue is pretty, for lack of a better word, epic. And there's a lot of things happening that you have no context for, but you start to gather what this story is probably going to be about. With that said, there's so many things that are left up to question. It's a very interesting prologue. I think it's really bold, especially when it was written. It leans into fantasy. It does, and it doesn't do a slow intro at all with that prologue. I enjoy it. And Scott says here the prologue and I is one of the best things about the whole series. I loved it. I think it's what Sanderson was trying to accomplish with Way of Kings. I'll be honest, I don't love the prologue, The Way of Kings. And the reason why I say this, I remember reading it and being like, okay, like I've read the Wheel of Time prologue, so whatever, this is fine. But there are people who have read fantasy, haven't read fantasy, that I've recommended it to, that aren't as big of readers as I am, or most of us here tonight are. And they're always like, man, I don't like that prologue. Like, what the hell? What's what's all these things in the terminology? And every time I think of the Wheel of Time prologue, I think of the Way of Kings prologue. And I wonder if that was Brandon's intent. I assume it was.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think the thing is, like, with the Eye of the World, it's really necessary to have that there, because it goes into a really slow, just like Tolkien-esque story right after. So it's like, you need to know that, okay, there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff happening later on. With the Way of Kings, there's crazy, wild, interesting stuff happening all the time. So
yeah, I think you're right. And in a lot of ways, I think it's like Jordan kind of signposting that, hey, this isn't Lord of the Rings. Like, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go real hard into this. Just follow me on this trail. And I liked it a lot. For me, Wheel of Time, I liked books 1 and 2 a lot. Like book 2, I have very fond memories of. I feel as if book 2 will always stick out. It made my top 10 books last year and whatnot. But for me, I've been kind of waiting to capture that magic again. It hasn't caught me as it did in the first 2.
Well, I'm curious, like, what books are you into right now? Like, what has you like obsessed right now?
So Realm of the Elderlings has taken over my channel completely. I mean, holy cow. Yeah, that's where I'm at. And I'm on the last book. I just started Assassin's Fate last night. I'm about 60 pages in. It's an 850 page book. So that means I'll have it done probably by next weekend. And I'm really nervous. I'm really, really nervous because I just finished another big series that you're also reading, The Dark Tower.
That's right. You caught up. You passed me.
I did. Me on it. Dude, so it was so hard because I love your Dark Tower reviews. I absolutely love it. And
thanks, man.
Chat, listen. Jake is a hilarious guy. I find him to be very humorous. His skits are second to none. His reviews are excellent. Excellent breakdowns of books. Like whenever you talk about Stephen King, the thing I like about you and your channel is when you talk about something, we all talk about, oh, I like these characters. I thought the progression was really nice. The climax really hit home with me. But I like the things that you pull out about authors. Stephen King specifically, and you pulled something out of the material that I never really thought about, and it's how good he is at opening books. Oh my God. He is, though. He's so good, and I would have never really realized that without knowing. It's kind of like when someone makes you cookies, and you're like, these are delicious, and you have no idea why they're delicious, right? And I feel like you have done a great job in all your reviews of pulling out the things that I'm like, oh, that is why I love this. So kudos to you, man. I think
thanks.
That's something that you offer. I mean, your skits are awesome. They're the best. But also this guy, Jake's reviews are excellent. They're excellent. And they're not terribly long. Like I just monologue on and on and on. And you seem to be able to just break it down concisely and get to the point. I love that.
I appreciate that very much. A lot of editing goes into that because when I talk, it's very stream of consciousness. So it takes forever. But I appreciate that, Yeah, Stephen King, like watching Stephen King build like a classic fantasy universe, like Wheel of Time story, it is so, you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know if a book is going to be like a thriller. You don't know if a book is going to be a Western, or a romance, it's just all over the place. It's insane. I love it. So those books are something special. I don't know why I stopped after the 5th book. I just took a pause. I want to read the other books, but there's just so many. I just like jumping around series. That's just kind of how I am, I guess.
Yeah, and speaking of jumping around series and whatnot, because you have you read Rhythm of War?
I started it, but that's another one I was like, I want to read this and this and this. So
yeah, and that book is massive.
I mean, I was like, oh, I just finished Oathbringer. I was like, let's dive right into Rhythm of War, and I was like, wait a second, I should probably take a break.
Yeah, I regret not taking a break between Oathbringer. Like I caught up for Rhythm of War. That was pretty much my plan.
Yeah.
And I regret that. I regret that a lot. I think a lot of my gripes with Rhythm of War came because I was on burnout. You'll burn out from any author. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I know you've experienced, everyone's experienced. You know, Christian is reading through First Law right now. And even he's like, you know, I love First Law. This is the best. I was like, Abercrombie's his new favorite author. But even when you read 6-7 books in a row, you know, and they're big books, it's easy to burn out. I will say I haven't burned down on Hobb yet. That's the
Oh wow, what a surprise.
This stream is sponsored by Robin Hobb and Roland the Elderlings.
I thought so. Yeah, where you got that Hobb money somewhere.
Oh man, if only the videos did well. if I said Farseer by Brandon Sanderson, it would get 1,000 more views immediately.
This is my copy, the one Robin Hobb copy. And you know what? I haven't started it yet.
Is it because of the cover?
It's a little bit because of the cover, and I feel bad.
I get it, man. They're terrible. They're so terrible.
I mean, you know what? I'm excited though. I'm really excited. And that's something, honestly, I do feel like Robin Hobb is going to be a big deal for me, just based on what you've said, your reviews, what everyone else is saying. Like, I'm so excited. And the same goes for Joe Abercrombie. I feel like his style is going to be perfect for me, that I'm kind of afraid to jump in, because I'm like, well, I got all this other stuff I need to finish. I don't want to get obsessed, because once I get you know how it is. Once you get into a series, you get obsessed. You can't stop for a while.
Yeah, that's kind of how it's felt with like Realm of the Elderling. So the plan was just to read Farseer, bro. Like, I wasn't supposed to read all 16 books this year. And I closed Assassin's Quest, and I was like, I guess I'm ordering the 13 other books in this series
all at once.
I did. And I don't regret it at all. The thing about Realm of the Elderlings is it is so beautifully written. When nothing's going on, that's the best moments in the book. You know, it's kind of like talking about being cozy with a character, right? It's like the moments you get to breathe with Fitz and the rest of the crew. Man, she writes human emotion so well. Reminds me a lot of Stephen King. Because I know Dark Tower, so you've read book 4, Wizard and Glass. Wizard and Glass is full of human emotion. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Stephen King wrote a romance novel, is what he did. And it's, in my opinion, after finishing all 7, I think Wizard and Glass is the best book. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but that's just, dude, there's something about that book where,
you know, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just think it is so purely a romance, and that's what I love about it. It's not ashamed of being a romance. It's not like, oh, a Stephen King version of a romance. It's like, this is a romance. It's extremely sincere. It's extremely full of feeling, like you were saying, you know. Yeah,
and Stephen King has done like so much for me in terms of what it takes to be a good writer, because I don't know if you hear this a lot, but I hear a lot of people say, I can't get into King's writing. And he kind of writes in like a herky-jerky style sometimes. Like, sometimes it could be kind of choppy. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but he'll just cut a sentence off, and he'll pick a word that I wouldn't have necessarily picked. But whenever you look at the body of work, or you look at a chapter and you think about where you were and where you came from, and then what the characters went through, King is so good at relaying the progress of that. And that love story, man, I felt it. I feel it right now. Like, thinking about it, I'm like, damn, it's rough. So rough.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's really good at getting you inside of the head of a character. And I think that's just super important. And also just keeping the flow going. I think Daniel Green was talking about, or he tweeted something that Stephen King retweeted that was like, you know, it flows so smoothly. It feels like you aren't even reading sometimes. And that's what I love about reading Stephen King, especially like later Stephen King. I don't know if you feel this way, but later into the Dark Tower series, the writing is really smooth and really just you barely even notice it at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Wolves of the Kala was extraordinarily easy to get through. It wasn't my fit. Your review is spot on. Like, I almost don't want to review it because you said everything I want to say about it. You know what I mean? I have a very strict 99% of the time. I don't watch reviews of books I haven't put a review out for yet, so I don't copy anything or have osmosis, anything like that, right?
Oh,
but
wow.
I caved. I watched your review after I read the book because I just needed something. I needed a little fix, a little Stephen King fix. And I thought you did an excellent job of breaking that down. But even saying that with What Was It Called not being my favorite, it's still in the probably top 4, which isn't saying much because there's only 8 books. But anyways, I did think Wolves of Call, Song of Susanna, and Dark Tower. I thought they were all super smooth, which apparently he wrote them all at the same time. I don't know if that's like the exact same time, but it was kind of like a trilogy in his mind, I guess.
They came out within like a couple, like 2-year time span. So
yeah. And a lot of people don't like Song of Susanna. I have feelings about that I like Song of Susanna. And I know Alan does. Yeah. Song of Susanna fills me with rage. Alan says he hates it. Song of Susanna was, in my opinion, a good book that suffered from the choice of when to cut it off and when to start it. And I'll talk about this in a spoiler review for everyone that's wondering what the hell I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about the decision of where he cut the story. But I'm curious to see what you end up thinking, Jake, when you get to it, because I think Song of Susanna could have been a great book for most everyone if they had just extended it a bit into number 7, and then 7 wouldn't have been so daunting, because 7 is a thick boy. I mean, it's like 800 something pages. But yeah,
I'm going to be interested to see that, but I can totally feel it. It seems like 5, 6, 7 are like its own trilogy at the end of the series. That's my perspective of what it seems like so far.
The writing is very, like you said, not only does he improve, but the writing does change quite a bit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I really liked book 2 a lot. I actually like book 1.
Me too. I love book 1.
It's so pretentious. And like he even says he wrote it pretentiously, but I kind of just love it, especially looking back on it after you've made the whole ride. Like looking back on it, I really like the Gunslinger. Number 2 was wild. It was just insane. Anyone that hated book 1, you got to read book 2. You have to read book 2. It's so weird. But his writing in 3 and 4, I felt, is like where I was like, oh, here's a big step up. Like this is King leveling up. And then 5, 6, 7, he takes a whole nother leap, in my opinion. Like the writing, like writing wise, 5, 6, and 7 are strongest for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really love the writing in book 1. Like, yeah, the pretentious, very like lofty kind of very stylized stuff. That's very fun for me. I felt like it was King doing like Cormac McCarthy, and with like just the hyper violence and the, spaghetti Western stuff. It was so fun. And then, yeah, when you get to the second book, The Drawing of the Three, it's like, what is this? Is this the same series? Is this the same world? What is going to happen? And that's what I felt, going from book to book. I do have to say though, I think The Wastelands is my favorite.
Yeah, I would pick The Wastelands if not for the ending.
Yeah, that
I like it. Yeah, I like it. It's a cliffhanger though. So for me, I'm like, King, why the hell didn't you just tack on the first 100 pages of Wizarding? He just makes so many weird decisions.
I know. I feel like it's a cheat to do that. It's just like, I'll figure it out later. Like, here's the book. It's like, I usually like my books to have endings. I don't know if I'm in the minority there, but yeah.
Yeah, King's not afraid to just say, I think I'm done for this today. I'm done with it.
I'm just, what? I'm tired. And I need to watch the game. It's on, so
I'm gonna do a rail Coke. We're gonna get a little lively. I might write Cujo. Who knows? I might write.
Who knows? Yeah. Oh my god.
At all the King books, that's the one I'm least likely to read is Cujo. I don't know why. Not interested.
I have a cool copy of that. Let's see. Oh yeah, I love this copy of Cujo.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but someday, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is nice too.
That is nice, dude. My used bookstore has all the old first edition hardbacks, like not first edition, but the first prints of the hardbacks. Oh. But they're missing 2 of them, and I'm like, I think they're missing 3, and actually it's 3 and 4. And I'm like, I want to buy them so bad. I don't need them. But I'm like,
you don't need them. You don't.
I really don't. I finished the series. There's no reason. I own all of them. By the way, are you reading the novella? Are you reading Wind Through the Keyhole?
I'm gonna read it at the end.
Dude, yes, do it. It's really good. It's really, really good. And there's no reason to read it between 4 and 5 at all.
I didn't think so. Yeah, because he wrote it at the end. So
yeah, I regret. I wish I would have waited as a treat to myself. And that's kind of Realm of the Elderlings has some novellas and short story type things. And I'm waiting till after maybe 6 months down the road whenever I'm missing it. So I can like kind of dip back in, you know.
that's exactly my thought. I feel like I love the Dark Tower so much that eventually, like once I finish it, I'm going to want a little bit more, and then I'll read Went Through the Keyhole.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we talked about Daniel Green mentioning stuff about King. I loved his should you read Dark Tower. That's actually what got me interested in like 2 years ago. One of the things I kind of disagreed with him on is, and I want to see your thoughts, is he said the pacing in the Dark Tower he felt was not great. I actually feel like his pacing's rather good. Now, he said that in a video long ago, so he might have changed his mind by now. But do you feel like the pacing is off in Dark Tower? Because I felt like it was just a straight ride. Like I loved it.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like this is the fastest I've gotten through a huge series like this. And it's not huge. I mean, it's 8 books. That's pretty long to me. But no, I think what it is that it has a lot of jarring changes in pace, mostly. And I think that comes mostly from books 1, 2, 3 are like a roller coaster, in my opinion. And then book 4 is a long rest. And then book 5 it's again like a roller coaster. So
yeah, he very much challenges you to take your hands off the wheel a little bit, right? Like, trust, I'm driving, trust me.
That's what I love about it. And he's a writer who doesn't use outlines, and it's just, I feel like when he doesn't even know where it's going, it's like, how can I know? You know?
Yeah, you can feel the chaos a bit. It actually comes through the text, especially when he gets a little more meta later. Very transparent about it. And I like that. I've always preferred everyone calls them gardeners or whatever they call them now, but I've always preferred authors, or it seems to be that I prefer authors who don't have outlines. Not saying I don't enjoy like the Brandon Sandersons of the world, but the people who really click with me seem to be people who have no idea what they're going to do with their work.
Same. I love that feeling. I feel like I'm fine if a book doesn't have a super satisfying end, and I think that's a lot of people who love outline writers and prefer that kind of story. They're like, if it doesn't have a satisfying end, it ruins the whole book. To me, I'm like, I'm here for the ride. If the book just ends at any spot, I'm like, whatever, it ended. It was a great experience. And I'm also someone who I like all sorts of books, outside of fantasy and science fiction. I love, literary fiction, that kind of, pretentious stuff. So I'm into like whatever happens. I'm just like, I like the story. I like characters who are real, and if the prose is good, that's the best for me.
Yeah, to me, that's a cherry on top. I think a lot of people say that, but like, it's weird. So like, I can enjoy someone who has relatively basic prose, but I can't say that I don't weigh that into my favorability towards authors, because my top 3 are all pretty good prose wise. For me, it's like Robin Hobb, Tad Williams, George R. R. Martin, and then Joe Abercrombie, Anaconda, whichever one. I've heard it both ways. But I think that does go a long way with me. And I'm also with you. I'm kind of glad you said this, because I sometimes I feel like maybe I'm like scapegoating my favorite series, because obviously it's A Song of Ice and Fire and there's no ending. Probably will never be. And the TV show ending everyone hates. But I don't mind I shouldn't say I don't mind a bad ending, but an ending does not make the story for me. It can. There are stories that are all about the ending.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm very much a journey person, especially when I know that the author is doing those things, because I feel like that's the art of it that I appreciate the most. You know what I mean? Like when you sit down with an empty Word document or an empty piece of paper and you just start letting it diarrhea from your brain go to your hand. I think there's something about
beautiful
that.
Metaphor.
Yeah, I'm full of them, man. I think there's something really human about that, and being honest with your shortcomings and your live thoughts. It's also why I prefer these type of conversations. I always like this. There's a lot of people who are afraid to do this. And I'm not, that's not me being like I'm brave or anything.
You're
But
so brave, Jimmy.
I'm
This
so
is
brave.
so brave.
I'm so brave. But no, there are people who really, they want an outline to the video, they want the script and things like that. But kind of like writing for me, I like just like putting it out there and seeing what happens. And sometimes it fails. Sometimes it fails hard. Not on this show because I'm a professional, but but I believe you write, right? Like I've heard you talk about it. You shared some writing tips and things like that, videos. And do you find yourself being more of a gardener than an outliner?
I lean towards being a gardener for sure, and I think that's how I like to start books. I just kind of like jump in, see what happens. Let's see who the characters are and just explore. But at some point, and I'm like working on a longer book, I get really anxious because I feel like, okay, who's in the driver's seat? Like I need some, and I'm really new at it. So I need some sort of like guidelines. So I'm kind of starting to bring more of an outline into it.
Yeah.
It makes me feel a little safe.
Yeah.
And it helps keep me on track, honestly.
Yeah, I think being on track is important. Sanderson kind of talks about it and says like what he wants to accomplish. He kind of sets out like what is there to accomplish. And I've seen George R. R. Martin talk about this too. He will say, I know that Arya is getting on a boat, right? I know she needs to get on the boat by the end of this chapter. Let's see where I'm going to take her. And right. I think that's really interesting. Like, I don't know. It's funny. I've written a little bit and I've shared it with people who are close to me and whatnot. And I've noticed the thing that I did when, half drunk from the top of the head compared to my outlined neat, like I watched my Sanderson lectures. Here we go. Yeah. I got my Cosmere shirt on and I'm typing away. The one that is more favorable to people seems to be the one that I wrote, half shit cocked on Jameson. And maybe that's just the way my art needs to be, I guess. But I'm definitely, I definitely gravitate towards those writers for sure.
That's great. You got the Stephen King experience of writing going on there almost, but that's fantastic. Like I really relate with that. I love just seeing what happens when I write. I don't like to be constrained, but what I've been doing is like when I get ideas, I like to just like write them down on the page. Like I'll just think like, I want this scene to happen, like, oh, this would be great if these characters met at this point and this is what happened. And then I just leave that there. That's just a scene, an idea. And then I think like, okay, well, how is it actually going to get there? And that's, I guess that's kind of how I work around it.
Yeah. I think in those stories that we have in our head, and like we know that those decisions were made, right? When we're writing, and I'm speaking in general about writing, but it's cool whenever you love something an author did, like King, and you find out that he was winging it, or it was never meant to be what it was. And he's very upfront in the fact that he had no idea where the Dark Tower was going. He had people who were on their deathbeds asking him what happens to Roland.
He's like, I don't know.
And he said, I know they'll think I'm full of shit, but I don't know. And he felt a lot of pressure from that. And I don't know. That's just such a interesting thing that people can sit down and do that. When I think of the worlds that these people have dreamed up, like that's one thing. Midworld and the Dark Tower. I don't know about you. I love that setting. Like, oh man, and that's Wizard and Glass has the most setting in my opinion, and the most feel to it. Where the other books were kind of jumping around. Wizard and Glass is very much in a setting, in a scene, kind of reminiscent of the Gunslinger, probably a little better written. And I just love that. I love that he was able to imagine that. So cool.
Oh, absolutely. And the characters, I mean, not to keep going on about how great the Dark Tower is, everyone should read the Dark Tower, but I mean, the character dynamics, like that's what I love most about these books, the group dynamics between the characters. I feel like nobody can write that, or I haven't encountered an author who can write that kind of a fellowship so well, and such a unique fellowship. You have a kid and you have a guy who's like a crazy murderer, it's just, and he's like the father figure, and he's like, I can't keep going on about it, but it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative said it. She was spot on. It's the best found family in all fiction. It's the best. It's the absolute best. There and there's so much humor. Like, you know, King can write his horror, which, by the way, the last 3 books really lean into the horror aspects, and I loved it. It was like he was like, "Oh, you forgot. I'm the king of this. I'm the king of this genre. Watch this shit." And he just hits you with all this horror stuff that really lands, in my opinion. So you have that to look forward to.
Good.
But he writes humor so well. And a certain character in Roland's relationship, certain gentleman from New York, I find that their conversations are just amazing. In the differences between the worlds, right? Like Roland being in our world, for lack of a better term.
Love that. I love that so much. Oh my God. When Roland, Roland being in New York is the best thing. Like it is so great. And that's why I love Drawing of the Three, because he's like the Terminator. It's hilarious and exciting.
Yeah, and King pokes fun at some of our really dumb American phrases. Like, geez, Roll, I'm up Shit's Creek without a paddle. And Roland's like, what's a paddle? It's just like the driest thing. I crack up every time. There's a scene later in the books with a sandwich that you'll get to. And it's the funniest thing I think I've ever read. Like, it's so funny. I'm probably going to do like 5 minutes when I do my spoiler discussion, just talking about the sandwich scene. It's so good.
I'm so excited. But now I'm like, I want to race to finish. Literally, I had the thought like the other day, I saw you like tweet out like, oh, you finished The Dark Tower. I was like, damn, like I want to watch those reviews. I better finish.
Yeah. Whenever I'm done, I want to have you on. And then I think Alan and maybe Sarah Reeds or someone else. And, just have a good old palaver. Is it palaver or palaver?
I say palaver.
Palaver.
I say both. I don't even know. I don't know. I never listened to them on audiobook. So.
Oh man, they're so good. They're so good on audio. It's crazy. Frank Muller is just. I mean, for me, it's the best narration I've ever listened to. I loved it, man.
Oh wow, it's weird. I've never enjoyed an audiobook ever.
It's interesting you bring this up, because I actually kind of wanted to hand jam this into this conversation at some point. One of my patrons, just hand jam, square peg round hole or something. I think this is an interesting segue to it. Stuart, he's one of my patrons. He was in my Discord talking about it, and he was like, "How do you compare?" And like, if you read one book and you listen to another, like, it's actually kind of hard to compare a book that way, like 2 books, right? And I guess it's true. I guess it's kind of true, because I don't think my retention is as good. It's a lot better than it used to be with audio. But do you feel like comparing an audio to what you've actually physically read? Like, do you feel like that's a good comparison, or is it a totally different experience?
I feel like I don't know. It's hard. I tried, for Oathbringer, I read for a little while. Mm-hmm. Like midway through the book, I was like starting to like burn out on reading. I was like, I want to listen to some of it. And I tried, and I hadn't listened to any of the books on audio. And then when I started hearing these other voices doing these characters who I know so well in my own head, it was like, oh no, that's not Shallan. That's not Kaladin. That's not right. And it really bugged me. And also I just, I don't like speeding it up. And I don't know, there's something I haven't gotten into it yet. I guess I haven't found the right audiobook for me. I feel like what I need to do is like start a series with audiobook and get used to the narrator.
That's what happened with The Dark Tower with me. So I was reading Realm of the Elderlings, and I would listen to Dark Tower during my workouts. So usually hour and a half. So I just listen to hour and a half every day. And Muller is he's a unicorn. I mean, he nailed these voices. He nailed the characters. So much so that King even said, like, that's what I hear when I write my story now.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Muller passed away in a motorcycle accident after book 4. So I always forget the gentleman's name. It's George something. It's not Goodall. Or maybe it is Goodall. I can't remember. George Goodall. I was right, actually. So he did book 1, and then he did books 5, 6, and 7. Does a great job, but Frank Muller, like, there was no way he was ever going to fill those shoes. Just no way. And Nick actually says, yeah, starting with audio is the best. Otherwise, it doesn't work often. I would agree with that. Also, if I had to hear Kate Redding's pattern voice in Stormlight ever again, I'd stab out both my eyes.
I don't think I heard that. What does it sound like?
Dude, it is the worst. Like I would
Oh my
rather,
God.
dude, I would rather have both my feet amputated than listen to that ever again.
Sounds like a Teletubby thing. Like when I hear pattern, I think something like low and like.
Oh,
really...
dude, it is the worst. It's so bad. I'm glad people are at least agree, because I didn't know if that's a hot take or not, but oh my God. And Scott, actually, immersive reading is the way to go. Read while listening to the audio for best experience. I've been doing that with Realm of the Elderlings, and I'm not going to lie to you. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun, but it's hard to find this right speed, because I actually do actively read while I listen. So like the narrator will they take pauses right during dialogue and such. So it's a little hard to keep that pace the whole time. But man,
yeah, we don't really need to take a break when we read, or take that pause. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because obviously it's a performance, which is why everyone gets really upset that I listen to audiobooks at like 2 times speed. But it's just the way my brain works. My wife cannot stand it. She's like, "What are you listening to?"
Dang, 2 times. That's ambitious. 2 times speed. That's pretty good.
I had I had Booktube the Dark Tower on in the car at 2x speed. And some of the stuff that's said in that book is just out of this world. My wife's like, "What the hell are you listening to?"
God. That's fantastic.
Like,
is your wife a reader? Does she read the same series you like to read?
So she is definitely not into it as much as me, but she does read 4 or 5 books a year. She read Scythe, the books 1 and 2. She's like halfway through 3. She enjoyed that. She read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo and really liked that. That's probably not a good opinion, I guess, but I actually loved Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I thought it was really interesting. It's about a secret society at Yale University, and there's like blood sacrifices to manipulate the NASDAQ. It's a very weird book. Yeah, I said it was like Harry Potter meets The Sixth Sense. And there's some stuff I wasn't super big on, but like it was fun. She read that and loved it. And then she recently just read a book, and I can't remember the name. The Silent Patient. It's a crime thriller. It's a really big book. It has like 900,000 reviews on Goodreads.
My wife just read. I think I got her The Silent Patient actually for, I don't know, for some occasion, but she loved it. She really loved it, and I want to read it soon.
Yeah, my wife. So my wife reads books over months and months and months. Right? She read The Silent Patient in like 6 days, which is unheard. I mean, I've never seen her read like that. So she loved it too. So maybe we're missing out on something, man. Maybe we need to read this.
Maybe we're missing out. Yeah, I don't want to miss out on The Silent Patient.
Yeah, I've heard so much about it. It's on Instagram, apparently. That's where she heard it. She's like, "This, I have all these books, and I recommend her all these books." And she's like, "Someone on Instagram said this book's really good. Can we go buy it?"
That's kind of how like my wife's. I'm like, "Oh, you got to read this book," and no, there's something else. But how do you feel about? Are you on Instagram? I don't even know if you're.
I mean, I'm on there. I think I have like 800 followers. I've never posted anything in my life on there.
Oh wow!
I only use it to harass Daniel Green to try to get him to come on the show, and he doesn't read them.
Hasn't worked.
Hasn't worked yet.
I'll bully him.
Yes, please. Threaten him if you can. But no, I don't really use Instagram. I'm a bit of a boomer. I'm on the Twitter. That's where I keep my mainstay.
It's good. I don't have an Instagram. I'm just Twitter.
Yeah, I like the idea of taking pretty pictures of my books, but then I think about it what I would need to do to actually do that, and I'm like, I would rather not.
I know. Get the lights out. Get everything set up.
You gotta go to Hobby Lobby.
Get the Hobby Lobby. Yeah, get the decorations. Yeah,
it's too much. It's too much.
It is too much. I can't do it. I feel like if I don't know. My wife tells me I need to get Instagram, and now it's a book talk. I mean,
God. I'm not downloading TikTok. It ain't happening. It's never happening. I hear book talk is huge. They even have little sections now. My Barnes & Noble. It says featured on Book Talk, and I'm like, what are you doing?
It's the way of the future,
dude. YouTube's for boomers. We're the boomers. We're the boomers of the book community on YouTube.
I'm such a boomer. Like I really am.
I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I am. I'm 20. I'm almost 24, but I'm a huge boomer.
Yeah,
I'm the worst.
I'm 30, and it's over.
It's
I'm on the downward slope. Ka has sent me to the Dark Tower to reach my final destination. And I'm okay with that. I kind of like being a little slower. Like there are certain trends that have picked up that I'm just like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like book talk. Like I'm just like, oh, I'm just not gonna do that.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
No.
Like, oh, that's
Sorry,
wonderful.
world.
And people would no, you don't understand. Like all you have to do is, and I'm like, oh no, I don't care. I don't want to understand.
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like at some point I'll give in and just do really stupid stuff.
Like,
the more stupid, the better. I'm just really inspired by how if I can embarrass myself on the internet, I'll probably go for it. I
was going to ask you, like, what has motivated you to go into skits?
Desperation, just sheer desperation, because I like run out of ideas and I don't read fast enough, and I go, I need to, I have like a strict schedule of putting out a certain amount of videos a week. And I just go like, I better come up with something. And then I'll stand in front of the green screen and just drone on about Brian Sanders and Ursula K. Le Guin. And I'll get drunk and then I'll edit it. And I go, well, I have no choice. I have to put it out. So to be perfectly honest, like that's actually how it goes. Like some nights I'll be sitting in, like it'll be 3 a.m. and I post at 7 all the time. So I'm like, it's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, okay, skit about bookmarks. Let's do it. It's honestly a little depressing.
So you're the gardener of BookTube, is what you're saying?
I'm the gardener. I have no plan about I actually filmed a skit yesterday that I'm editing tonight, and I'm like, wow, I'm really ahead of it. But I have no plan about anything I'm ever going to make. So if anyone's ever watching my videos, just realize that it was made like really spur of the moment.
I like to call that from the heart. I think that's what we'll say.
From the heart.
It's from the heart.
It's from the gut.
Yeah. You have absolutely blown up, man. You're like over 8,000 subscribers. You're on your way to 9,000, right?
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
There is an issue though, and I'm gonna put you on the hot seat here, and I can't take all the credit for this. Lost in Discovery Christian kind of pointed this out to me. You said in a video earlier in your career that once you hit 10,000 subs, you'd become a Minecraft only channel. So are you excited for your Minecraft content once you hit 10,000?
So Game of Thrones, we were going to talk about Game of Thrones, and I really want to hear what your take is. The Minecraft thing, well, yeah, that's a joke, but honestly, I for a boomer, I do have an affection for Minecraft because that's like, what I loved in middle school. So, yeah, I'm gonna do something. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping the channel tanks before 10K. Let's just hope.
Well, I don't think that's gonna happen, and I think now that people know that they're gonna get Minecraft content at 10K, I think that they're gonna push it.
If there's anything that crosses, it's booktube and Minecraft. Like that's the perfect demographic. It's untapped. People don't know what they're in for.
Reading sprints while playing Minecraft sounds like the perfect sleep remedy.
It is. It's gonna be wonderful. I can have you on. You can play Minecraft. I'll have Christian on. I'll be the dream of Minecraft. Of booktube.
What if we do a role-playing server on Minecraft? It's just like me, you, and Christian, and we'll get some other people, and we're just trying to build the Dark Tower. Because I don't know what you do in Minecraft, so I'm going to assume that we can build things. So let's say we build the tower.
No, you know what we should do? We should just build like bookshelves, just like little bookshelves, and just like sad.
Just try to recreate our shelves in the game. That's what we'll do.
That's it. It's going to be really depressing, and people will be really sad, and I think that'll be really fun in the end.
I think everyone wins once you hit 10K is what I'm hearing. everybody wins. So make sure that you go subscribe to Man Caring Thing. Everyone here's subscribed to you. I mean, my goodness, we've had 60 people and more this whole time, which has been pretty excellent. It is a good time to tell you my condolences with your divorce with Deborah.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I'm very unfortunate to hear about her new husband Joshua passing away. So my condolences.
He totally accidentally died. That was such a weird accident, just totally out of nowhere. And you know what? I may be on trial for murder, but I have good lawyers. It's me. I'm going to be my own lawyer, but it's gonna go well. You know, I've watched a lot of Tom Cruise movies where he's a lawyer, so it's going to be fine.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much like when you go to law school. That's your final bar, is that you just have to watch Tom Cruise clips.
Yeah. You just have to yell, "You can't handle the truth," and then you're a lawyer.
Yeah, and that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, you know. But to be perfectly, I am remarried, you know, to my amazing wife, and she, you know, I keep the thing going because I think she really likes it when I talk about Deborah and being divorced to Deborah. It's just very amusing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very comfortable. Especially when people that know you watch and they go, "Who's Deborah?"
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you do these skits and they're absolutely hilarious. Is there at any point do you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have said that?
Every time. Like every single time. I don't know. Yeah. Like, and the whole thing with Deborah and Joshua, that was one video I made like a while ago where I was like, oh, wouldn't it be weird if there's like a video where it's like a regular booktube channel video, but the guy is like divorced and really depressed. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then it just became a series. And
yeah, you have lore.
There's lore. I can't even keep up with it, but somehow there are people who comment who are like, remember this happened. You got to keep up with the lore. I'm like, damn, I better remember.
Did you have anyone reminding you of the Minecraft promise?
All the time.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
All the time. Yeah, it's oh my God. Let's not talk about Minecraft anymore. Let's
well, the other question I wanted to ask you, because I love asking this question because I'm always surprised by who people on the channel, like who have a channel, watch. So other than me, obviously, who are your favorite, like your go-tos to watch on BookTube?
I just watch you and Mr. Beast. That's it.
Mr. Beast. Why does that sound familiar?
You are a boomer. No, I'm just kidding. I don't watch Mr. Beast, but I watch you. I watch a lot of people. God, there's so many, but I can't really think of them. I love Ridima and Andy Smith. They're fantastic. Philip Chase is excellent, and Christian, of course, Lost in Discovery. I love his channel. Donald Green and Murphy. You know, those were the two that really got me into BookTube, really.
And those were the two that made you say, okay, I'm going to start hitting record.
Yeah, you know, I think so. Like, I mean, to be totally serious, like, yeah, Daniel Green's channel was like, that was huge. And I think for a lot of people who are like doing like the more fantasy world on BookTube, that was like, oh, you can do this and you can just talk about books, and also seeing him like do more of his weirder videos. Like I remember one time, you know, when he did I don't know if you saw this, but he reviewed the Wheel of Time covers, and he did like a drunk green screen test, and he's just like rambling on in front of green screen. I was like, that's great. I feel like I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it was just like I saw everyone reviewing books, and I was like, "Oh, I could do this better than them." You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. No, it is interesting.
Yeah, you're doing it better.
I wish the analytics disagree, but yeah, it is weird though that at some time you're watching people review books, and you just say, "Oh, I want to do that," and then the first time you flip on the camera and you hit record, you go, "What am I doing? Should I really be doing this?"
It's so weird. And yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I really love talking to like other booktubers like you, because it's like a weird thing. You're like in isolation doing this, but like you have very similar experiences to me because you know what it's like to record something, edit it, takes hours. It takes forever to edit. And then when you post it, like right before you post it, you're like, well, this is the worst thing ever. And you're like, everyone's going to yell at me, or you have no idea. It's really nerve-wracking. But what I've discovered like in this community is that people are really nice and really supportive. If you are putting yourself out there, people are there's gonna be people to subscribe, even if you're like a really small channel. There are people who want to support you and show you kindness. And yeah, David right here, highly relatable. I love David's channel actually. And
Yep.
you know, they it's just a really friendly community. And even like if you don't want to like a lot of people don't want to like build a huge channel or anything. You just want to like make connections, find people to chat with books about, and it's amazing. It's really a lot of fun. I don't know. Has that been your experience, or is it like totally the opposite?
No, like I totally agree with you. Everyone always says this, right? It's like we don't have people in our real lives, so we have to find people that we can talk to this stuff about. And it's surprising how, I mean, there's always issues with any community, right? My experience has been overwhelmingly positive. The amount of people that I've met, it's funny. There are people who watch my channel who are so much like just better read than me, have read so many things, and I've learned so much from connecting with them in the comments. And now, like for my Patreon, we have a Discord through the Patreon, and one of my favorite things, like I like talking to everyone in there, responding to everything, but now like I'm watching people become, friendly. I'm watching people have conversations. Like at first it's usually, the person who's running the Discord is talking to everybody, but now I'm seeing people talk to each other. Like I don't have to be there all the time. Right. and there's something like really cool about that. Like two people who would have never met or never talked, and they say, oh, you happen to like Robin Hobb. Hey, I like Robin Hobb too. Bam. You just made a new friend. I don't know. It's been oddly positive as someone who is very nervous, I would say, maybe not nervous, but apprehensive to putting myself out there, which is odd because I used to wrestle in front of thousands of people in my underwear, but it's true. I'm a very private person, and like I never posted really on social media ever. And now I do for bookish related things, but the amount of acceptance I've received and just people being overly kind. And then you just meet people who have had such amazing journeys through reading and some of the personal experiences that, they were impacted by that reading got them through. I find that to be like really inspiring. I know there's some people in my Discord that's have like really tough stuff that's happened to them. But one of the reasons why they're able to keep on is the fact that they read. I would be reading whether there was internet connection or not, to be honest with you. Like this is something I would be doing. I'd like to think the fact that there's this whole other dimension to reading that we now have because of communities like this, it's like the cherry on top. And it's something to do whenever you're like, oh, I don't want to read. Like sometimes I just want to talk about books. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I want to take a break. I want to talk about books. Another cool thing, dude, is, Wheel of Time's not my favorite series. I don't hate it, but I love, and Patrick has said this, and I feel the same. I love hearing people talk about the Wheel of Time more than I like reading the Wheel of Time. And that's not a slight at Wheel of Time, but like I genuinely get excited for people. Like this TV show, I'm pumped because I'm a fantasy fan, but like I love watching people get excited about stuff. The Mistborn Fortnite skin, I didn't care much, but I was so pumped to watch other people get hyped up about that.
Me too. I love seeing people get excited about their series. When you're like passionate about something like a book series, it's really special, and you can find people online. Like the way we are now allowed, like in this era, to build a community and have like inside jokes. Like I remember reading The Way of Kings and then watching X Catherine's video, like Vine compilation of like Stormlight memes. Yeah, and it was the funniest thing ever. I was like, if I could do this kind of like, it's like inside jokes. It's like you're joking with people who you've never talked to before, all over the world. And I'm sure you have this experience where you're like looking at, in analytics or whatever at who, what nations are people watching your, it's all over. Like people from all over the world. It boggles my mind sometimes, and I will like be on live stream. I'm like, where's everybody from? Like, and it's insane. And to be honest, like you will never know how much your channel is like going to inspire somebody to read that book that's going to change their life, or read that series that's going to get them through that really hard time in their life. So there's a lot of good that comes from it, you know, and it's you know, promoting these series that we love and just sharing excitement for the fandom, and just talking about books. It's really rewarding and wholesome.
Yeah, and that's why you know, I love calling bullshit on people who say that reading fiction is a waste of time, because they don't understand the amount I have grown. I have learned empathy. I mean, I had some before. I'm not a psychopath, but I've learned, you know, I've become more.
It took you Robin Hobb to learn empathy. Yeah.
It took me a while, you know, a couple characters to get cut off. They go, hey, that's not good. I shouldn't do that in everyday life. But, you know, now I don't have all these bodies in my basement. I don't know what to do with. And it's like, Jesus Christ. But, but yes, I you know, I feel like I've gained a better understanding of empathy, and that's grown. And you're right. The amount of people I've met from outside the United States is awesome. And to be honest with you, in America, we do a fairly poor job. And I love America. We do a fairly poor job of learning about other people's cultures and what we're brought up in. So I was brought up in the Southwestern PA, Northern West Virginia education system. Didn't hear a lot about Europe. I didn't hear a lot about Australia. I didn't hear a lot about India. I didn't know about these things. And the people that I interact with from these countries, you know, it's so it's always so impressive to me, anybody that speaks multiple languages. Like when people apologize that it's not their first, I'm like, no, it's amazing that you know another language, because I failed Spanish, folks. Like I flunked it. Did not do well. But
same.
It's really cool to see people from different cultures in different countries come together, all for a certain niche fandom. I don't know. I love it. I've talked to so many people from different countries. Australia seems to have my people. I don't know what it is. But you know, Christian, I believe Derry's from there. I believe Brendan's from there. He's one of my patrons. And I talk to them all the time. And now I have to base my life around, you know, a different time zone.
Australia time zone.
It's very difficult. You know, I just found out Christian was wearing a beanie in his last video. And I said, what are you doing, dude? I was like, it's summer. Why are you wearing a beanie, you idiot? And he was like, dude, it's the Southern Hemisphere. And I'm like, so? And he's like, it's winter here. And I'm like, okay. Okay.
It's wrong, but okay, whatever your opinion is, Christian.
Yeah, and I said, I was like, you know, your toilet's flushed the wrong way. I was like, how American of me to be like, oh, that's the wrong way. It's not our way. But in all sincerity, yeah, I've loved connecting with people from all over the place. I mean, honestly, Alan is a teacher, so you can say this. He says, because our education system is trash, Jimmy.
You heard it from him. I love Alan. Alan's channel is amazing. But yeah, he's right. Yeah, I grew up in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, which garbage education system.
Beautiful place though.
It's hot. Yeah. No, I love the desert and stuff, but yeah, I live in LA now, so it's not too far from Phoenix, but it's I had no real like friends who read a lot or read a ton of fantasy. There were like a couple here and there, and being able to talk to people online is like, I feel like a kid again. I feel like I'm, you know, reading these books that I love that I abandoned for a while. And I feel like a lot of people are, especially in COVID times, rediscovering like stuff they loved when they were young.
Yeah.
Especially book wise, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Class of 2020, man. The class of 2020 booktube. Because you were 2020 as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're unbeatable.
Unbeatable.
Yeah, class 2021. I mean, you guys are okay, but like you're standing on the shoulders of giants, is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay.
Well, there's classes, booktube classes. There are so many channels. It's crazy. There are so many people starting channels.
And it's great. It's great. Noelle's one of my patrons. She's been on my channel forever, it feels like. And she started a channel, and it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like people's first videos are getting ridiculously good. And like I said, like you said, you didn't want to go back and watch your first video. My first video is me like just screaming at people to read A Song of Ice and Fire. It's so bad. Oh man.
What a time to be a Song of Ice and Fire fan.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's something.
You guys were on top of the world for so long, but you know what? Now you guys are brought down to earth.
You know what? Silver lining is we're getting rid of all these show watchers,
all the fake fans.
You know what's interesting is obviously there was some backlash from the show, yada yada yada. I'm very much, there's a gnat flying around my house. I'm very much over anytime someone is like, oh, I just read A Storm of Storms, I love it, and someone's like, season 8 sucked, and I'm like, can we not? Can we just, I don't know, not do that every time someone wants to talk about the books? But there does seem to be a wave of positivity that is going over the Song of Ice and Fire community. And I'm even seeing people that I've watched for 2 years trash the fandom sharing clips from House of the Dragon set. And they're like, oh, this looks kind of dope. Or they're saying, man, I kind of want to reread those books. I mean, it'll always be there. But I think we're healing. I think we're healing is the point. And there's still people I know in Alex's Discord. There are people who are reading A Song of Ice and Fire for the first time, and they're not deterred by everything they hear about the show. And it's because the books have so much to offer us as an important piece of fantasy.
I still haven't read them, and I haven't even watched the show. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really excited to get into the books and explore it from there. And I feel like with Game of Thrones, it's like Star Wars. Like I love Star Wars, but you don't get so mad about the ending of a show or a series unless you really loved it, unless it was really good. If it didn't, it's like it breaks your heart because it could have been so great. You love it so much. It's only something you love can disappoint you.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's you can't hate something unless if you loved it first. Which is clearly a blanket statement, but it sounds really good, right?
It sounds great.
It sounds really good, but then I think about people I've met, and I'm like, oh no, I just hate them. There's no love there.
There's no love at all. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I agree. The fact that you haven't read it, I envy you so much. Oh man, to read those again for the first time, especially you not knowing the show. Oh my goodness, I definitely, obviously, read and then watch. I would recommend. I'm doing a reread with Alex Neves and Leanna's Library starting in October, and we're going to read one book a month from A Song of Ice and Fire, and then we're going to do the short story collection, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is about 100. I think it's 150 or no, it's 100 years before the book one, which are some amazing short stories. I love Dunk and Egg the same as the main series. Like I think it's some of George's best writing, actually.
Wow.
But you should join us.
You know what? I feel like reading one of those books a month will be a tall order, but I have to ask you, if it came down to me starting A Song of Ice and Fire or Realm of the Elderlings, which one?
Man, why you got to do that?
I got to do it.
Let's get back to Minecraft. Okay. So anyway. All right. Well, Philip Chase is in the house. That's when you know it's a good Friday night.
Oh yeah.
Usually the doctor is doing something revolutionary, pointing out Malazan punctuation that you didn't notice on your first read through.
Did you watch his new video? He has a close reading of a Malazan poem. I love that. I love that kind of stuff. That's like my nerd level. Like I love that.
Yeah, I love that stuff too. I have avoided all Malazan content that isn't just like pitching the series because I want that. It's kind of like, it's not the last, but it's one of the last pillars, like massive series that I haven't read yet. So I just want to experience, you know what I mean? Like I kind of just want to let it wash over me and see where it lands.
I hear you. Yeah.
I will answer your question. The answer is Realm of the Elderlings.
Oh, wow.
But here's why. Song of Ice and Fire is not going anywhere. And it's not
hugely
finished.
popular.
Yeah, it's not finished. Like I said that like nobody knows. We all know it's not finished. Jesus. Oh man, I hate myself sometimes. I would say Realm of the Elderlings only because it's complete. I'm not saying that because I think Realm of the Elderlings is better than A Song of Ice and Fire. I haven't finished it, so I don't feel like I can make that statement. Also, for the fact that I have to think about that for a long time. In fact, I probably will reread A Song of Ice and Fire and then make my justification. But that should tell you. I mean, look at my shit. I have Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones stuff all over this place, but they are that close for me. Like I really love Realm of the Elderlings, but because Realm of the Elderlings is finished, my nod goes to Realm of the Elderlings. I also think Hobb is literally the best writer in fantasy ever. Like I don't think there's anyone better. Prose, I love Tad Williams. Robin Hobb's more digestible. Robin Hobb has crafted sentences that have literally changed my day. I'll read you a quote. It has no spoilers. I wrote this down and I sent it to like everyone in my contacts list. All right. This is a quote I read from Robin Hobb the other night. Sorrow and loss never die. We can put them away in a chest and lock it tight. But whenever it is open, even a crack, the aroma of lost sweetness will rise to fill our lungs with heaviness. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That's damn good. That's the kind of stuff when you can pick out like sentences from a writer and just you love it. That's what I love in great writing. It's just those little asides, you know.
Yeah, I mean, she will, her word choice, her placement of a sentence that declares something. I mean, to me, there's just nobody better. I think Robin Hobb's a once in a generation talent. I don't understand why she's not talked about as much as Tolkien and Ursula Le Guin and everyone, Robert Jordan, George R. R. Martin. Like she should absolutely be in those conversations. I
love that you're talking about her so much because I think, yeah, Game of Thrones, excellent, but a writer like Robin Hobb, even though I haven't read her books at all, I know like she should get way more recognition and be way more read.
Yeah, I think she will do things. And George does this as well. She will do things you've never seen another writer do. Not like the most creative ingenuity, but like the way she executes some of these things. One, you're going to see a lot of influences. I see a lot of influences. Brandon Sanderson, definitely. I know there's a character in Realm of the Elderlings that inspired Hoyd. And that's obvious whenever you read Robin Hobb.
Wow.
She's just a trendsetter, man. I mean, think about when she was publishing these books. Everyone was Tolkien derivative. Everybody. You know, Martin subverted. She said, how about I just do something totally different? And she went for it. And being in the first person perspective was a pretty big gamble at that point, in my opinion. And then also just the scope of the story that she was telling was so personable. It's so personable. And for a first person perspective to have the best side characters I've ever read in my life that's an accomplishment to do that from the first person perspective. I think Robin Hobb, and also she complemented her perspective with her magic system and her world building and the lore. Everything is just so finely tuned. There's the unreliable narrator aspect that I love. I could go on and on. She's the best character writer, bar none. Just bar none.
I'm dying to start. Damn it. I just started Wheel of Time and it's like now I want to start Game of Thrones and Robin Hobb.
I'm trying like really hard. All right, so here's the problem. I do these every 2 weeks and I got some amazing loyal listeners. I'm trying not to do the A Song of Ice and Fire rant every 2 weeks, but it always ends up here.
There's a rant?
I just pitch A Song of Ice and Fire and Robin Hobb every 2 weeks. It happens every 2 weeks.
Your brand. Come on, that's your brand.
It is. You know what? I happily rock those banners. I happily rock the Buck sigil from Farseer. And Alan was on 2 weeks ago. For everyone that was there, thanks for showing up. It was a good time. And Alan came in, and Alan. The reason I brought Alan on, half the reason was he was in like a month ago. He was in one of my chats just crapping on books 4 and 5 of A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, they're terrible. I hate them. By the end of the podcast 2 weeks ago, Alan goes, man, I'm gonna have to reread those. I'm real passionate about it. I think George and Rob and Hobb have a lot of things in common with their writing, and it's no surprise that they happen to be in like my top 5. Like
Right.
they're very similar. So Alan wants to know
Absolutely.
why Pratchett is being ignored. You read Mort.
And I'm going to keep ignoring Pratchett just to bother Alan.
I was shocked with your review. Because I loved Mort. I had a really good time with it. It surprised me a little bit. I was expecting you to be super high on it. You liked it. Like it wasn't a negative review at all. So I don't want anyone to get that misconstrued. But I was a little shocked because I thought you would be like head over heels for it. But I felt like you just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was I really enjoyed the beginning and the end, but I was a little bit, I felt a little dated, some of the comedy. You know, I what I really loved, and I loved it when he leaned into like the world, the ideas, these interesting concepts, like just death and you know, what happens after death, and these like the alterations in the fabric of the universe. And this, you know, was very fun to me. I felt like the characters themselves, though, were a kind of flat, so I couldn't really grasp onto Mort and the other characters necessarily. But I feel like a lot of people told me, like, yeah, that's kind of how it is at some point. So read past Mort, it's early Pratchett. Yeah, so I mean, that's what everyone tells me. I thought it was like fun. Like, oh, that was like, there were some really funny moments, but I was waiting for like, let's get into like the characters I'm gonna love and carry on with. And I know it's a huge series, so I'm just gonna jump around, you know.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna continue Death's arc, and Discworld's gonna be very much like a let's toss this in kind of thing, because it's a very specific mood that I have to be in. And yeah, there's some people saying Mort is their least favorite so far. So I mean, that's good to know it gets better, right? Like we didn't read the Storm of Swords of Discworld and then we're like, you know what I mean? And I really, really did enjoy Mort. I felt, I know what you're saying. I felt that I maybe made the bridge myself to making it more serious, for lack of a better term. By thinking, I think about death all the time, which is very morbid. But I do. I think about mortality.
That's totally normal. Yeah, totally normal.
Is it? Thank God, because I literally worry about this sometimes. I think about my mortality probably, I don't know, every day, you know, and I was making those connections with the story because of that, because it's at the forefront of my mind constantly. So I think that's why I was able to connect with the characters, regardless of whether there was a lot on the page to do that. So I can definitely see your points.
Yeah, like I loved when it got into the story and the plot and exploring some of the ideas. But yeah, the characters to me were just kind of not super. I don't know. I really need like really characters I can attach to. So yeah, I'm gonna don't worry. I'll start guards. I think that'll be my next one, Alan. So don't.
He's chomping at the bit to get in this call. He's like, let me add him. Well, the doctor said that's healthy, so I guess I'm cleared. So that makes me feel better. Thank you, Philip.
The doctor is in.
Samuel Vimes is a class hero. I am really excited to get to the city guard stuff because I think that humor is going to hit home with me.
And I heard it's more political oriented.
Yes.
And that's what I love, that kind of stuff. So
Alan is frothing at the mouth. There was multiple times during our podcast where he was like, I'm frothing at the mouth, and he was like showing me the froth. It was amazing.
It was an incredible, like I couldn't watch the whole thing while you guys were live. I had other stuff, but I kept
4
jumping
hours.
in. It was 4 hours, and I was like watching. I was like, "Oh, this is a great conversation." I come back like 2 hours later. I'm like, "Okay, they're still going."
Yeah, we did.
Come back 2 hours later. Okay, wow, they're going.
Yo, me and we hopped off the thing, and I was like, dude, I think I could have talked to Alan for like 8 hours. Like it was just such an experience, and we talk about the community and such. It's interesting. I don't know. People people might probably not, but people might think that this podcast is a super organized experience. It's not. Jake joined. You joined the lobby 3 minutes before we went live. I've never talked to Jake on voice. I've never heard his voice, in my own personal ear, obviously on his videos, but it's so fun to just see what happens.
Sorry, I was late. I was
no.
Yeah, I got time. I'm gonna clean up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have time, and yeah, but it's all good. I popped in all sweaty and got my coffee, and now we're here. Look at us.
Yeah, I mean, Alan jumped in about 2 minutes before the stream. Hey, man, he was out of town complaining about the traffic down there in Panama Beach, which I kept calling Palm Beach, by the way, which I thought was really funny. It shows again how stupid I am. But
he's complaining about traffic in Florida. I don't. I live in Los Angeles, so I don't know if there's a comparison there. Maybe I don't know.
I've been to Los Angeles a few times. I used to wrestle in Hollywood. And the red eyes into LAX is what I would take. And because it was red eyes, I never had a bad experience with traffic or the airport. So everyone tells me how terrible it is, and I never had to experience. And I had a driver, so I didn't have to worry about all those things.
I'm so curious. I don't know if you've talked about, or if you want to talk about this, but don't feel pressured. But about this wrestling, this is incredibly interesting to me.
Well, shit, I've had so many people ask me about it, so I guess I could talk about it. I mean,
you're comfortable. I don't want you to.
So my only fear with this, and it's always been, and maybe I should survey chat, is a lot of people are here to hear about fantasy. A lot of, I never want this to become a fantasy/wrestling channel. So I don't want to, give out that conception I'm going to start talking about wrestling all the time or anything like that. But it is part of my origin story, so I guess it would be important. And I've had a lot of people to tell me that they would like me to share this. So yeah, I guess I'll tell the whole story, at least from an overview. But yeah, I always wanted to be a wrestler when I was a kid, right? You probably had shows that you watched when you were a kid, Lion King and stuff like that. Well, what I did was watch Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro. And I just remember not knowing why I knew who Hulk Hogan was. I had no idea how I knew that name, but I knew that I wanted to watch him. Like, I knew he was important. And I remember asking my mom and said, can I watch Hulk Hogan? And she called my grandpa, who was a huge wrestling fan at the time. And he was like, okay, you watch on a Monday at like 9 or something like that, or 8 or whatever it was. And I remember my first scene in wrestling I ever saw, and it captivated me. And it made me a fan. It was like Uncensored 97 or something like that. And Hulk Hogan's in the ring, and the Macho Man, Randy Savage, Slim Jimmed up, is standing in the crowd. People are going crazy or throwing drinks. And he said, Hulk Hogan, it's going to be me and you at Uncensored. And I was sold. I was like, oh, like larger than life, right? Like Hulk Hogan. And I'm looking at Macho Man, and I always thought Macho Man was a little bit cooler because he was a little edgier. He had dark hair. And I just remember being swept up. It was almost like a Coliseum feel. He's up in the stands and people around him, and Hogan's standing there all oiled up and gassed up, just bouncing his pecs. And I'm just like, dude, these guys are gonna fight. This is gonna be interesting. And then you grow up a little bit. I think it took about a year for someone to be like, hey, they're friends, right? Like they don't hate each other. And I remember being really upset, but then for some reason, I said that's almost cooler because they get to tell stories, and I liked reading. I didn't learn how to read. I was very late to reading, second grade. Most people were learning to read, first grade. That was like, it was like they were sending notes home like, hey, James might be stupid. Like you might need to do something with him. Like you got to keep hitting him until he reads properly. That's how they do things in Southwest PA. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that okay? That's interesting.
Yeah, school system's weird there. But I was reading and I was enjoying it. And then wrestling became like an extension of that. And I liked the idea of being able to switch characters. And it came from the fact that I didn't really like myself very much. There was something very symbolic about wrestlers who wore a mask. I was very into masked wrestling. Remember, I'm a kid, so I didn't realize this at the time, but looking back on it, I always felt an attachment to people who were able to change who they were, because I didn't think I was anything special. So for me, I latched onto it because I said, oh, this is a way I can become special. This is a way I can please people around me, because I never thought there was anything outstanding about myself. And I never really felt like, I had a lot to offer people. So I looked at that as a way to grind at something and be good at it, and then also explore my creativity, but also just to make people happy and entertained. And I would, man, I went so hard. I used to have wrestling action figures that I would fight against each other, and I would record the results. I would VCR tape my N64 like WCW matches. And I was just all in. I ran the Backyard Wrestling Federation when I was in high school, and we ran a live event and had almost 100 people there. And we had full-blown characters. I was the high-flying hillbilly. I was the high-flying hillbilly who didn't do anything high-flying because I was vastly overweight at the time. So I was in, and then my friends grew out of it in high school. Most people grew out in high school, and I didn't. I still had it, man. I still had the passion. And until this day, I can say I have never experienced passion for something as much as I did then. I've gotten close with a couple other things, but I've never felt the drive to do something like that. And I was overweight in high school in my early years. So I wanted to be a wrestler, and I knew I had to lose weight. And I had some other things happen that impacted me. And I ended up losing like 100 pounds over a period of time. Oh, wow. And so I did that, and I said, okay, now I'm going to go on. I'm going to be a wrestler. So I was 17 years old, and I went to Kaiser, West Virginia, which is not great. And I started getting trained by some dude. He's nobody, but he taught me how to take a bump, do all these things. And it was just one of those things, like a lot of people say, like, how'd you get into that? How did you start that? Like, why, what were the steps? There were no steps. I knew I was going to do it. There was never another option for me. Right. I didn't care about longevity. I didn't go to college after high school because I just couldn't. That simple as that. Right. There's all these scholarships out there, but there's not. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't qualify for that. I did okay in school, but I never did amazing. But all my eggs were in that basket. Like I knew what I wanted to do. And when I have my mindset, I don't let anything deter me. So it's weird. People ask me like, how'd you get into that? How did you find yourself there? But it was just like, it just happens. Like it was always going to be that way. So I got my foot into the business that way. I did a couple squash got beat up, just trashed, hit with chairs. I got a wrist that I don't know if you can hear it still clicks because these guys were just taking advantage of me and beating me with chairs and stupid kid coming in weighing 135 pounds soaking wet. Like this kid's never going to be anything. So I wrestled, and then I ended up finding myself in the Pittsburgh scene a couple months later, and continued my training with someone who was a little bit more legitimate, who had done work with WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and started learning the craft. I started really understanding the craft. And then this is where I started to be able to craft that character that I used to think of when I'd play with my action figures. And when I'd watch, that's going to be me one day. I started to be able to craft that. And I always wanted to do like a Clark Kent type thing, kind of like what you see now, right? Dark rim glasses, hair combed over. And that was it, a lot of times in professional wrestling and in stories, by the way. And I think you could probably agree with this, Jake. The best characters that we can create or play are extensions of ourselves. And I played that in wrestling. I was Jimmy Nuts. It wasn't even that far off from my real name. And I did that because I knew I could stay true to it. Because you got to get in front of the camera. You got to cut promos. I never felt comfortable cutting those promos. Like, I'm going to break you in half, brother. Like, I never felt comfortable doing that. So I was very much a nerdy kid who ended up getting beat up, makes the heroic comeback, and I either win or I lose, right? I was 99% of the time a babyface or a good guy. So I liked playing the heel. I was Kaladin, okay? I was Kaladin. And I just needed a Sadius or whoever, my antagonist was, and I could make money. And that was it, man. That's kind of how it kicked off. And there was a lot of really rewarding experiences from that. I learned a lot about storytelling that I see and I can translate into what I read. And my biggest regret in wrestling is the fact that I stopped reading in like high school because video games became a thing, like most of us, right? I wish I had read all these books before or while I was wrestling, because I didn't realize the amount of nuance that you can give a character, which would have been me, with just how you say things, or the words that you choose, or when you choose to say them. And I have a love for people with great dialogue. That's why I love Joe Abercrombie, Robin Hobb, George R. R. Martin, because I hear these voices in my head and I think about how I would have delivered on these moments whenever I was speaking them. Because in wrestling, as much as the in-ring stuff is the attraction, so is the talk. And talking is what gets them in the seats, right? And I always loved that. I love the old school wrestling. Roddy Piper. I got to spend a lot of time with Roddy Piper. And I got to wrestle him and his son, which was probably the pinnacle of my career, in my opinion. And he taught me so much about being able to turn it on. It's humbling. It's very, very humbling that I got to spend time with people who I considered heroes. Some of them were letdowns. I'll tell you right now, you don't always want to meet your heroes, but that was one dude that I looked up to a lot when I was younger, and being able to share time with him while he was still here, and him taking time to invest in me and give me advice was pretty special. It was pretty special. My career did not end the way I imagined it. I imagined it being on WWE. I imagined people buying tickets to see me wrestle and stuff like that. And I had tryouts with WWE. I was on Monday Night Raw. I did some stuff with Ring of Honor. I've done a lot of stuff that I'm really proud of. But I was obsessed with making it. That's all you ever hear in wrestling. You're going to make it. You're going to make it, kid. It's like on BookTube. You're going to be the next Daniel Green, kid. You know what I mean? And in wrestling, that was me. I always wanted to be the best. And that was something I had to like kind of accept, right? That I didn't make it. Various injuries, and then just life in general. And I decided to step away. And I can kind of segue into BookTube and stuff, because when that ended, I had my WWE tryouts, and my knee blew out twice. And then also my passion went away. Unfortunately, the business changed a lot while I was in it. And that's not the business got to evolve. You guys, it's like writing, right? Or reading. We say, man, why don't people write like Tolkien used to, or Robert Jordan or George R. R. Martin? These new writers, they're writing these 300-page, barn burners. Can we just calm down a little bit? It's kind of the same thing with wrestling. Everything we do is in the micro, right? Everything has to be micro now. So I was always a bigger fan of the longer form storytelling with bigger payoffs and such. But the business changed. I kind of lost my passion. The things that used to make wrestling special no longer made it special, or at least weren't a bigger factor in the weighing of that. So I kind of fell out of love with it in a lot of ways. And I'm not bitter about that. That's just fact of the matter.
So how many years did you do professional wrestling?
I did 8 years, 17 to 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing, and about this, because it's so interesting, because I feel like when you talk about your passion for wrestling, I think you're also talking about your passion for fantasy. I feel like it's kind of like you said, a very similar thing in the storytelling and the theater. And it's, and like, even the way you say it, and the way you do your channel, you're such a good natural storyteller with, and you really are, you're very like conversationally, you're a very good storyteller. It's a really hard thing to do. And that is so interesting, because a lot of your story of talking about your passion for wrestling reminds me a lot of, like, when I was in high school, I was deeply passionate for filmmaking, and that was my world. That was all I wanted to do. And like, when you talk about like when you went into wrestling and they were like, well, how'd you do that? It's just like, well, there's no choice. You just do it, Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt with, filmmaking at the time. And, like in high school, that was all I was concerned about. Like I made a full-length movie like with my friends. Like I would just like steal them on the weekends and like harass them and like
Yeah.
film them in the desert and like chase them with like fake guns, you know. So it was like that was everything. And you know, when you talk about like losing passion for it because of the industry and the business, and like I moved to LA for, you know, my interest in filmmaking. You know, when you can still love something deeply and be really connected to it, but not love the business side of it and the business aspects of it. And there may be another way to pursue that. And for me, it's like, you know, like doing YouTube and writing, that's like everything I could have hoped for, because it's, I get to make like videos, I get to film stuff, you know, I film stuff every week, and that's like what I love to do. And write and like read, and it's like all connected there. So it's I'm very grateful to have this hobby. It's just, you know,
yeah, it's for me, it's been an array of things, you know. Alex, I want to thank you for the super chat for the Fortnite. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. He said ground control. The reason why I'm saying that is because I do jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's kind of been another gap filler. And he's actually from my jiu-jitsu gym. I've converted many of my rolling partners to fantasy readers.
that is so awesome.
So, I mean, you absolutely have a knack for entertaining. I mean, I consider your videos must watches. Like when I see it, I'm like, oh shit, here we go. You know, like I got to put everything else down. So I think, you know, I know you say, oh, I make these at 3 a.m. Let's talk about bookmarks and stuff. But man, it's good. It's really good.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And you know, I feel the same about your channel. You know, you're so good at explaining what you love about books, and your passion just shines through so clearly, and you're really good at talking about them. So it's just something you have to watch.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. You know, it's different in a way than wrestling, but it's also not. So like whenever I would, you know, sell a fight, right? Sell a match. It would be very much like, you know, you got to make some drama, right? And I would evoke emotion to myself, and I would actually try to relate it personally, so I could get some genuine emotion out of myself. Because I never wanted to, even though I was playing a character, I always wanted to feel real, right? Because when you can suspend people's belief is whenever you capture their you know, imagination, and then you win, like you've won. With Booktube, it's interesting because I have a genuine reaction to books. So I'm still, in a way, cutting those promos, but it's all authentic, and it's all, in a way, it's a lot more vulnerable. When I'm sitting here telling you this is me talking as James. This is me like, this isn't a character, right? It's very much me and how I really feel. And I think that's like one of the vulnerable things about books, but also one of the special things about books. And the reason why I get really passionate is because like books have a profound impact on me, and I share it with thousands of strangers, which it can be odd, but you know, Fool's Quest, I just wrapped up, and it taught me a lot, made me reflect a lot about guilt and shortcomings. And it's I don't know, it's something I had to like close the book. And you know, I always like to, when I close the last page, I always like to say, what was that book about? Okay, now what was that book about for me? Like what did this make me think about in my life? And Robin Hobb happens to do that quite a bit for me. But that book, you know, made me think about guilt of wrong decisions, or even just times I felt like I let somebody down, and how to process that, and how I saw characters process that. And you know, and you see a character doing something, you say, oh, that's unhealthy, Fitz. Don't do that. And then you're like, oh, I did that 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And you learn. You learn.
Absolutely. I mean, reading about Kaladin is, I feel so much for Kaladin, sometimes a lot of frustration, but a lot of, you know, it's very real. And it's, you know, reading about Kaladin at times, you know, during a hard time in my life, it was very comforting, very helpful, you know?
Yeah, I think he's like one of the best written characters when it portrays of anxiety and depression. Like I actually really appreciate that from Sanders. I know some people are saying, okay, like we've seen it, let's kind of move on. Like that Rhythm of War definitely dives into a lot of it, and I feel like some people are like, okay, let's get a move on. And I understand that, to be honest, because it is still storytelling at the end of the day. But I do super appreciate the care that Brandon approached the subject with. And I've always said that I feel like Brandon is one of the most inclusive and well thought out writers when it comes to how it's going to impact his reading base. And you have to give him like major props for that. I think that's why he's so accessible. He's so accessible to people, not just because of the way he writes, but also because of how he cares for the reader. He really does. And I think that it's a no-brainer, right? That he's selling hundreds of thousands of millions of books or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. I think he's able to access very real emotions and real things people are going through in the fantasy world. Plus, he has a really great, unique fantasy world. I mean, it really can't be said enough. I feel like there's just oh, great. Andy's saying how many RTs before you? 100 million.
Let's do it. 10K Minecraft, 100 million.
That's how many.
Someone asked what we do in real life. You don't have to answer this if you don't want. I code for a living. I'm a software developer.
That's very cool. That's I'm learning coding right now. Like I go to school, so I'm still in. I go to UCLA. I'm an English major, digital humanities minor currently, and I'm learning very basic code right now, and I'm like, oh man, this is hard.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier. I spent a lot of my days going, wow, they pay me this much to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I hope no one finds out that I don't know what I'm doing. Now you have days. Imposter syndrome is super real in that profession. Yeah, for me, it was like, man, when I left wrestling, not to harp back on this, but that's what I did. That was like I said, my eggs were in that basket. I had turned down job opportunities. I did all my schooling online. I never even ended up graduating, which was crazy. I had friendships that I put on the back burner to reach this dream. And when I talked about making it on WWE or wherever it might have been, New Japan, it's one of those things where like at the time, and this is a very recent thing for me, but like it was like, okay, you didn't make it because you didn't make it to WWE, right? But now I look back, man, I'm like that that 8-year-old kid that used to watch on black and white TV, man, he would have been pretty damn proud to be where I was. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, that's the heaviest thing is whenever you can when you can look back at what before you experience life, right? And you experience heartbreak and disappointment and all these things, and you realize your own shortcomings. You kind of you have a pure vision of what you could be. And I always think back and say, man, 7 or 8-year-old me would have been real proud. He would have been real proud of where I was. And I can say confidently that I had only come to that realization after reading multiple characters where you see their journey and you look back and then you kind of reflect. I mean, those are the best books when you look at the end and you go, how did we get here? How did we get here? How did I get here with 60 people watching me talking to you? How did I get here, man?
It's crazy. I feel like life just changes so fast and you never really know what's going to come next. And, like with the booktube thing, like literally I started like in earnest doing booktube like 10 months ago. And, before then, I was like watching Daniel Green videos going like, man, that would be amazing to be able to do that and to be able to like have anybody watching anything I did. That'd be insane. That'd be so weird.
Yeah. And then people tune in, man. That's crazy. It's the craziest thing. Brandon, thank you so much for the 15. And also Darren earlier with the 5 spot. Thank you very much, guys. That's super generous of you. I really appreciate that. Oos. Oos is a thing we say in jiu-jitsu. It's very strange. It's very culty. But we do it. I don't know why. I don't even know what it means.
What is that? You don't know what it means?
Dude, it's like a Brazilian thing. I don't know. Like, because jiu-jitsu, like, you I don't know. They just say oos all the time. If someone has a better explanation of it, please. I've been doing it for 4 years and I have no idea why we say it. We balance. It's martial arts. It is what it is. A lot of groupthink going on.
Hi, Susan. Sorry.
What up, Susan? Y'all are super fun. Yeah. But you know what? It came here and I filled the gap. Once I got out of my self-pity, I filled the gap with anything I could. And coding ended up being really important to me because it flexed my mind in a different way. And I happen to have like I would say I have a passion for it. Um, and then jujitsu was just a totally different thing. It was like a good way to stay in shape, and it was like real grappling, like real competition. And I hadn't had that in so long. And then reading's rounded it out, man. I'm telling you, like reading has definitely filled that gap. And I think it's why I like writing, because I'm being able to tell a story, right? I mean, it's just something special about that. But it's different. It's a lot different. I used to use my body and tell physical stories. And I know people look at wrestling and say, it's hokey and stuff, but like the care that is taken whenever it's true professionals, when people are taking it very seriously, it is one of the best forms of storytelling there is, because it's still good versus evil, and good versus evil always makes sense, and it always sells. So I miss that. And it's actually funny, we talked about gardening. So in professional wrestling, obviously, we all know it's predetermined. A lot of guys will walk through every single thing they're going to do. I was very much an improv guy. So if I knew the guy was wrestling, or even if I didn't, sometimes they'd be like, what are we going to do out there, man? I'm like, we'll figure it out when we get out there, bro. You know what I mean? And we just go out there in front of like, a couple thousand people, nothing planned.
Oh man.
Yeah. You're talking crap.
That's intense.
That's when you know you're good. That's when you know you're a real professional, man. When you walk out there, I had someone do it to me. I think it was like Ricky Morton or somebody, first time, about to walk through the curtain. I'm like, Ricky, what are we doing? He's like, we'll figure it out there, brother. I'll see you out there, man. All right, let's go then, I guess. And you go out there, you be talking trash. All right, I'm going to headlock you. And people think you're talking smack, but you're actually you're listening to the audience to figure out what they want to see. Because some audience want blood and guts. Some want hokey, yay, boo. They want those type of things. So you're trying to find the vibe of the audience while you're out there. It's there's nothing like it. There was nothing like it.
But like when you could feel that connection with an audience, then it must be like a thrill, like unlike anything else. I feel like that's like almost like stand-up comedy. That's like
yes.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like whenever you had this vision, especially when you've built a story with another, I've had some really cool, we call them programs or feuds with people. Man, there is some stuff that just like the culmination of the storytelling that we did. 9 months. For instance, I won the heavyweight championship in Pittsburgh at a place called IWC. And my whole story arc was that I was a member of a group being held down by the leader. And I was the guy, but he wouldn't want me to. He was a little past his prime and he didn't want me to take his spot. You know what I'm saying? Dude, we built this story, and then I got hurt in the middle of it when we were originally going to finish it out. So it made it even more dramatic when I came back from my knee injury, and no one expected. I came out, rocking and rolling when he's about to, do something devious. So we built this story over almost 2 years, and I finally beat him. And I won in a ladder match, and there's a picture of me grabbing the belt, and dude, it's just people are erupting. I mean, as I'm reaching for the belt, people are standing. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all hokey, it's all hokey bullshit. But in that moment, Jimmy Nuts was real. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, there's nothing like, I'm getting chills talking. I love it, man. It's the best.
It's amazing. You're gonna have that forever. That's something that you'll always remember and always have. That's a special moment. When you're able to like, I don't know, that kind of like in-person thrill, that kind of like excitement of like being connected with like a group and creating something out of nothing. That's just really unlike anything else. I'm obsessed with like comedy, like stand-up comedians. I think I'm so interested in that because I feel like that's something like writing, like anything, like when you're passionate about it, you want to learn the nuts and bolts, and like it just takes so many hours of practice, and it's an incredibly hard thing. But it's like when you get that kind of like connection with an audience, and like I've done some like community theater, like acting, like back in the day, and I enjoy performing on stage because you build a kind of relationship with the audience for sure.
Yeah, and it's a very like sacred thing when people put their emotions in your hands, and then you got to take care. And that's why I feel a lot of pressure Like I can understand some of, now obviously not to the scale, but like George R. R. Martin's got a lot of people's emotions sitting in his hands. Man, could you imagine? Could you?
I cannot imagine. Like, I feel like there's, and in that way, I kind of understand like I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but like the David and Dan, like there was so much on their shoulders to wrap up that series, and it seemed like it was almost like they were like, we're done, it's over.
Yeah,
like,
and
it's going to be we're going to end it however we end it. It's just that's it. Deal with it.
Yeah, and you know they had bullet points from George, but the problem is that a lot of the brickwork that should have been laid in seasons like 5 and 6, it wasn't there. So a lot of George's points for the ending didn't pay off the way they should have because of that. And that, you know, that's an adaptation that happens. Unfortunately, I think when they looked at the cumbersome position they found themselves in, because, you know, in wrestling, whenever you work over the bad guy's working over the good guy in the middle of the match. It's like a movie, right? Bruce Willis comes in, kicks everyone's ass. You go, that's the good guy. And then an evil guy comes in and cuts him down, right? And then the whole movie is him trying to get back. And then he keeps coming up just a little bit short. That was wrestling, right? We always said you got to make sure the heat, or whenever the bad guy is beating up on the good guy, you got to make sure that the good guy's comeback is as big as what he received, right? Like you got to get it back. And in a series like A Song of Ice and Fire, where the good guys take a beating, you have to be able to pay that off. And I don't think Dan and Dave had the ability. I hate to use the word talent, but I don't know if they had the wherewithal to pay that paid off. I just don't think they did, because it has to be paid off in a very certain way. And they just kind of washed their hands of it. They did some good things, like the adaptation. One thing people don't talk about enough is the humor that they added into the show was phenomenal. They got humor. Even in the last season, there was some pretty funny stuff. They did not understand the spirit of the story, unfortunately. And I feel for them in that regard, because, oh my God, so many people watching.
Yeah. And now, yeah, George R. R. Martin just, him and Patrick Rothfuss. I mean, I can't imagine that kind of pressure. You know, every time you sit down to write, thinking like, yeah, I don't know. I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pressure when I do these, or when I make videos for a couple thousand people, you know, and I hold every single person that watches, I hold them very dear, and I try to think about how it'll impact everybody. I couldn't imagine writing for that many people, or doing something for that many people.
Absolutely, yeah.
It looks like Andy wants to know: have you read any Tad Williams? If not, Jimmy, you need to convince him.
I have the first what is it called? The first book in that,
The Dragonbone Chair.
Yeah, Dragonbone Chair. Yeah, I have that one.
Did you like it?
Oh yeah, no, I haven't started it. Yeah, I picked it up at a used bookstore, but I haven't started it. Yeah,
I have a Lands of Ostenard video that you should check out. It's like 7 minutes.
I think I watched that.
Nice.
I think I did. Yeah, because I remember I've seen some of that stuff on your channel. That might have been one of the early stuff I watched on your channel, actually.
That was one of the things that, other than Way of Kings, caught on. My Faithful and the Fallen stuff by John Gwen did really well. And then the other two things that like kind of catapulted me like into like the 1,000 sub territory was Dragonbone Chair, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which I love, and the Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov like really like took off. And recently, because the show's coming out this year, a lot of people are going back and watching that, and it's really cool. Because I'm really proud of that one.
That's really cool. It's weird. Yeah, sometimes there are videos where I'll be like, is this really taking off? Okay. That's nice. Like there's this one, I have a Faulkner video, like where to start with William Faulkner. And it's like, it was doing pretty good numbers. Like early on in my channel, I was like, all right, I'll go with it. I'm curious, you know, you're talking about like jumping up to the thousands range, but like for your channel, when did it, like when you hit 1,000 subscribers, did you feel like, oh wow, this is like,
I remember
sorry, go ahead.
And I remember when I hit 300, I was like, oh my God.
When I hit 100, I was like, I can't even think of like 100 people standing at a room. That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like, Actually, it's funny you say that because how do you deal whenever you see like the thumbs downs on your video?
I don't really think about it. It's just like I don't know. It doesn't it doesn't even like occur to me. It doesn't seem real because none of the numbers feel real necessarily. It's just like these aren't real people. How could that be real people? Except for the comments, I read the comments and I'm like, oh, these are real people like actually watching this. But like thumbs down, I'm just like, I don't know who that is.
It's funny. And I ask you this because I see a lot of like it can affect people very negatively, and I feel for them. Wrestling gave me really thick skin when it came to that, and it was something that I learned from a lot of the old heads, and they were just like, hey man, because you always get the people who they think they know everything, and they're in the front row and they're booing you. Everyone else, you're supposed to be getting cheered for, but they're booing you, and then you start to think, well, what am I doing wrong? Right. And one thing I was told to me was like, so let's say you have 100, we'll use booktube, you have 100 likes and 3 dislikes. You take the 3 dislikes and put them in a side room and 100 people who loved it. Like, who are you going to go talk to? You're going to go talk to the 100 people that really liked it. Those are the people you're here for. And so whenever, like, even when people downvote or something, I'm just like, wow, they interacted with my video. That's crazy. Like, that's so crazy that I'm here. But when I hit 1,000, I just remember being like, oh crap, people are listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like, oh, people are actually going to watch this. Like when I post something, I'm like, oh, it's not just going to like get 50 views. Like people are actually going to watch it and comment it and let me know immediately their reaction. It's kind of nerve wracking.
Yeah, it really is. Teaching high school prepares me for people booing me.
I'm sorry, Alan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you kind of forced into that role, right? And Alex said he just finished Wise Man's Fear. He's going to email Patrick and let him know he's good to release Doors of Stone now. Sorry for the wait, everybody.
Yeah, come on. Come on. He was waiting for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. No, I still have to read it. Never mind.
Yeah, I haven't read Kingskiller. I think I'm going to read it next year.
Good call. Yeah, it's funny how you were just talking about like, oh, there's like you've gotten through the main big series, but there's always more. It's like there's always more huge names in fantasy that it's endless.
And sci-fi. And one I wanted to ask you about is Dune, because I remember you were reviewing, I think it was Dune Messiah on your channel.
Yeah.
And you really liked it. I believe you said you didn't love Dune when you read it, but you read it in like 8th grade, right?
Yeah, I was too young for it at the time. It was I wanted some like fun fantasy, and it was like, prequel Star Wars at some point, not in like a negative way, but I mean just like in a very political. Mm-hmm. I really love it now, and Dune Messiah is great. I have it. I was going to go straight to Children of Dune, but I don't know. I just kind of got interested in more fantasy stuff, and I love Dune so much that I'm kind of hesitant to finish the series, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So I've had it on my TBR for a while, and I said I was definitely going to read it this year. And my patrons just voted on my next 3 reads. So as soon as I finish this last book in Realm of the Elderlings, I'm going to read Red Rising trilogy, Gardens of the Moon, and then it's Dune. And people keep asking me, like, are you going to read the whole series? And I'm like, I don't know, because I feel like it's almost unanimous that people feel like it kind of drops off. But I do know that, like, you actually mentioned Quinn's idea. I think you mentioned in this video. It was like Quinn's ideas loves God Emperor.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And I trust his opinion quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great channel.
Well, anyone who is like loves the Dune those 6 books, they say God Emperor of Dune is the best one. So there's got to be some merit to that. I'm excited to read that. And also Messiah was like, I feel like if you read Dune, you got to read Dune Messiah, because it flips the whole story on its head. Like, it's just there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in those sequels for sure.
So I definitely need to get to that. And there is so much stuff in sci-fi. One of the newer ones, and Brent mentioned here, is Empire of Silence. I've heard it is phenomenal. I've heard that, the prose is supposed to be tremendous. Also, I saw, Brent, you asked about Kevin Thorne earlier, a wrestler. I know of him. I never met him, but I knew of him. But yeah, Empire of Silence is another one. Like, his name's Chris. I'm going to mess it up. Chuyo. I don't know how to say his last name. I'll learn pronunciation when I do a video for it. But he's starting to build like a big series, and it's like, man, there's some new dogs on the horizon. And Stormlight's awesome. And then Alan's always reminding me I need to read Dong Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham.
It's endless.
It is
endless.
It really is.
I'll tell you. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to shout out real quick a series that I'm getting into, a sci-fi series that's older. It's like in the 90s, but Stephen R. Donaldson, he wrote the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant series.
Yeah.
I haven't read that series, but I've been reading his sci-fi series, The Gap. The first one is called The Real Story. I just finished the second one. It's called Forbidden Knowledge, and it is incredible. It is so good. It's grimdark in outer space. It is really dark, but incredible characters. They're all terrible and evil, but it is so good. So well written.
Well, you just sold me. Terrible people making terrible decisions is always going to sell me on something. So that's totally separate from Thomas Covenant, then.
Yeah, it's totally. Yeah,
okay.
It's set in the future. It's sci-fi, aliens. Everything.
It's a
space opera.
Yeah. That Donaldson's somebody that I've been really interested. Thomas Covenant's obviously like super controversial, and it's something that a lot of discussion could be had about. That would be interesting.
The Real Story, though, it's controversial as well. Like in terms of like the graphic content, like definitely for people interested in looking in the series, like definitely look at some reviews, see if it's something you're gonna be into reading, because I don't want people to go in expecting one thing and getting another, because it's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty.
Yeah, I've heard that he pulls zero punches. Yeah, and it's kind of similar to some other series that I wanted to read this year. Like one I've been really wanting to get to is Scott R. Baker, Prince of Nothing trilogy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it starts with Darkness That Comes Before, and then I think it's The Warrior Prophet. And it's supposed to be like really dark, but it's written by a philosopher, and a lot of people say that it's like an opposite kind of thing to Malazan, where Malazan was written by somebody who is a philanthropist, I want to say, or however you wait. Someone spelled this out for me once, and I can't remember what it was, but essentially, Prince of Nothing trilogy and Malazan are kind of like two takes on the world from different perspectives, and it's really interesting to read them both. So it's something that I feel like I need to do at some point, especially since I'm going to be getting into Malazan soon.
Right.
Look at that book. Yeah. Booktube TBRs are better than live browsing. Section is invariably premium. Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. Daniel,
I haven't been to a bookstore in so long. Oh my God, I miss it.
I go into the Barnes and Noble. They've been reorganizing and they're trying to get better, but they mix the sci-fi with the fantasy. They try to split it. Like it's very annoying.
I don't trust myself in bookstores anymore. I'm nervous. I try to just read everything through the library now, because I will spend like all the money I have. It's really bad.
Yeah, I'm going into DC tomorrow to meet some friends, and I'm going to try to hit up some like DC used bookstores, because we don't have a ton of used bookstores around here, and I know I'm just going to come back with like a satchel. I got to take my reusable bags because it'll rip the plastic. There ain't no way.
If you're ever in Los Angeles, I don't know if you've been to the Last Bookstore in downtown LA.
I've heard of it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's huge. It used to be a big bank, and it's like 2 stories. It's great, and it's all used books. The used books are expensive. It's LA, but it's
LA.
It's an experience. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've heard so many people talk about that bookstore and say it's like a destination if you're a bookhead to go there.
I love it. Yeah. I'm near downtown, so I like to go there all the time.
That's awesome. Do you think you'll stay in LA?
Man, I'd love to, but it's expensive. So
yeah,
that's me and my wife would love to stay in LA or somewhere in California, but we don't know. I guess it depends. Once I graduate, we'll see.
Yeah. How much longer do you think you'll be in school for?
I'll be graduating next year. Yeah, next spring.
That's awesome. And then do you want to go into more of a computer science role, or what do you want to do?
I want a. I've been in school for so long, man. I just want a job. I just want to work. I'm just like so done with school. I'll just, I want to go into like computer science. Yeah, I mean, something along those lines.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I just want to be done. Like, I don't even know at this point. I'm just so
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I never finished a degree, and I went for multiple things, but the main two were accounting and physics, and I love them.
Mm,
And then somehow I ended up being a coder.
that's
I
incredible.
Yeah, I just taught myself and was able to grind my way out. Luckily, I'm in a place where there's a lot of there's a big need for developers, so I was able to kind of snake my way in. And now that I have experience, it's not so bad.
It's
But
very cool. How does your job work with your, doing booktube and writing and stuff? How do you balance those things?
well, I read a lot, right? It's interesting because I use my brain so much at work that when I'm off, like I don't find video games as stimulating as I did because my brain is generally fried after a long day of work.
Hmm.
Whereas reading stimulates a different part of my brain. And I
Oh, that's
feel, yeah, it's almost like I feel like it is my relaxation. And it's really like people say, man, you're reading so fast. It's like I literally don't do anything else. I go to jujitsu, I lift weights, and I read. That's
yeah.
it. I don't have friends. This is my social hour. And then with all of you who I talk to in the comments all the time. But really though, that's really what I do. But the nice thing is at work, whenever I'm chewing on something, I'm trying to figure out a problem, I can turn on an audiobook. Or if it's a slower day and I know I'm going to be doing just some cleanup stuff that doesn't take a lot of critical thinking, I can turn on an audiobook, which is really nice. I would say that my tech savviness has helped the transition to being a booktuber pretty, like it was a good compliment because I know my way around a computer and how to troubleshoot and whatever.
Yeah.
I will say that audio is like the worst thing ever to figure out. Like when I do my videos, it's never my video I'm worried about. It's always my audio. I'm always
Oh,
worried.
oh yeah. That's something, if people are thinking about starting a booktube channel, like it's good to put some thought into the audio. Like that is the most important thing. You could be shooting on like a 2002 camcorder with great audio. It wouldn't matter,
Yep, you're 100% right. I think the audio means more than anything else. I recently just switched to a lapel mic in my last video, and I was super nervous. I was like, "Oh my god, what if it doesn't sound good?" It was fine. It ended up being okay. But yeah, it's weird. I feel like, and you could probably relate to this. We care about little things that probably nobody else notices in our videos and stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm lucky. I had a lot of experience doing video editing. So like the editing is, comes pretty easy, but yeah, the audio, little details, I don't think people realize how much time it goes into even just editing a video where you're just talking to camera. That takes forever. It takes forever. And I don't know how you do it. Like, are you one of those people who you'll like record a review like multiple times until you get it right, then edit it? Or do you just record, just kind of go off the cuff, and then you just put it together?
Yeah, so I record in batches because that's the way I found I can be consistent. So it's like, okay, this weekend I'm filming 3 reviews and I will edit those over a certain amount of time. It cuts down on the stress of having to set everything up and film every weekend. And it's just, when I first started, I was very sporadic with my uploads. I was not sticking to a schedule and these type of things. And that it just, I was like, okay, I got to change something because I want to do this, but like, why does it feel like a chore? So I said, okay, if I can, and I will say this, I don't always do it. Sometimes it's just an off the cuff. I'll do one video and I'm not feeling it. And then I'll just say like, okay, that's all I'm filming today. And I'll have to film next week. That happens. But I'm definitely a batch filmer. And then I find I do better editing whenever I don't shoot in the same day. I feel like I take my time more in the editing process rather than being like, I just want to get through this, What about you? Do you usually film and edit all in the same day?
I try not to. I do everything I can to avoid that because it sucks. I'll try. I used to be better about this a while ago. I would record. Sometimes I'd record like 4 or 5 videos in a night, and then I wouldn't have to record for a couple weeks. But this summer I started putting out 3 videos a week. Before I would put out videos Mondays or Wednesdays and Saturdays. Now I'm doing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. So it's I thought it wouldn't be a huge difference. I thought it'd be like, oh, just one more day, and it makes a difference.
It sure does.
It definitely makes a difference. And so some nights I'm like, oh damn, I'm like recording then editing, like a few hours before I put it out. Sometimes I record a couple of videos, edit one in the same night. It's kind of all over the place. But it somehow I'm able to keep it working. I'm not the most organized person anyways. I just kind of go for whatever's going on. As long as I get the video out 7 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, I'm fine. It came out. I pull a lot of overnighters. I love working at night. Like I can't really start working until like 7 p.m. So I kind of like hurt myself that way. I have to work like in the middle of the night, the dead of night.
That's how I used to work at a lot of night shifts, and I used to be that way. Just recently I started breaking that a little bit.
That's good.
So I think one cool thing is like you don't do TBRs and stuff, right? So like I feel like with you, when I see you cover a book, I'm like, oh shit, you covered that book. Like I find it like it's a surprise. It's like, oh, Jake's into that. Do you structure your reading like in your obviously you don't have a TBR on your channel, but do you have in your mind like, okay, I'm definitely gonna read this month, or are you more of a like let's see what happens kind of person?
I try to be like, I'm gonna read this and get it done, but I'm so unreliable with myself, with my own reading. I'm such a mood reader. It's so frustrating. And I think it comes from I'm still in school, so I'm still having to read like a shit ton of books, for my English degree. I'm reading constantly for that. So it's like I have to read those books. I don't want to force myself to read something that I'm not in the mood for when I'm like have my own free time. So that may change, but yeah, it's like when something captures my attention and I make a video about it, it's because it's like all I can think about, and that's all I can really talk about. So sometimes it's all over the place, but yeah, I want to get better with it. And I'm starting to get a little more disciplined, I hope.
I mean, I've never noticed a lack of discipline. The fact that you upload 3 times a week is very impressive. And you said something there that I really like is the fact that if you can't stop thinking about something, you make it. So like I made a Farseer video that talks about like a pretty niche moment that people miss that has massive implications on Fitz as a character. And I could not get that video out of my head. I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I finally made it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of content that I like to make. There's been books I've read I just don't review because I just don't have a lot to say.
That's what I love. Honestly, that's what I love about your channel, because I feel like when you're putting out a video, you're really like, you really have feelings about it. You really care about it. You want to talk about it, either positive or negative. Mm-hmm. And I've heard you talk about before, like you'll read something, you're like, oh, I don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I read something, I'm going to talk about this, even if it's a tiny little bit. Like you're going to hear about it. I read it. Okay, it took time.
Yeah, I don't want to read for content, if that makes sense. Like where it's like, oh, I read it, I have to make a video about it. That's why I do a lot of stuff in the wrap-ups. I actually like those videos a lot. And I know my subscribers do too. But for me, it's nice because there's books that I might not want to make a 10, 15-minute review on, but I do want to say something about it, right? For instance, a book that I did actually really enjoy was The Coward by Stephen Arion, and it was out of nowhere. I didn't plan on reading it, but I have such a backlog of Dark Tower reviews. I'm like, I don't have time to do a video review for this, but I'm going to mention my wrap up. And then it's like, it's cool, right? Like I can kind of get my thoughts and do it that way. So I've enjoyed those, but I'm with you. I got to have it on my mind. I got to have something about it to say that I feel like it means something rather than just being like, I read this book. You know what I mean? Hey, Darren, thank you for the 5 spots. Didn't fall in love with reading until after college. The fact you are doing reading all while in school is amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, man. It's I like I like to read. It's it sucks sometimes. I think a lot of people who love to read, because it is time consuming. It really is, especially when you have, a lot going on. And also like when you want to hang out with people or do stuff, it's you have to make choices sometimes. And luckily I don't have many friends, thank God, but I can devote all of my parasocial relationships to, the internet. And I am married. So yeah,
that helps.
That's my friend. That's the friend I have,
Same. Yeah. My wife is ridiculously supportive of me and my nerdy hobbies, and I couldn't be more thankful.
People who are married will understand. Like, yeah, when you're married, that's your best friend, that's your go-to person. And I'm very, very lucky because my wife is super supportive. She's the one I wouldn't be doing the channel if not for her. She got me these lights.
Yeah.
And I was like, I better shoot something down. It's like, you better make these videos. She probably watches my videos more than anybody else. So
Yeah, I remember, I bought the camera I used for Christmas, and she was like, you should do it. Like, you should really do it, because I talked about doing a booktube channel for quite a while. Right, I wanted to talk about all the stuff I had read, and I wanted to make videos about A Song of Ice and Fire. And I just remember like sitting in front of the camera for my first video and being like, well, I bought this camera, so this has to happen. Like, the pressure's on, James. Like, you gotta deliver now. You can't because you're not going to use it for normal pictures, because you got a cell phone for that. There's only one reason to have this camera, to shoot videos. So
that's funny. I feel like a lot of people who are like YouTubers, when they give advice, they're like, don't buy a bunch of equipment before you start the channel. You're gonna like a lousy investment. It's like, for me, like getting these like expensive like lights and everything, I'm like, oh, I feel guilty if I don't shoot something now. Like, I
yeah, for me, I kind of held myself hostage a little bit, because I mull over purchases, unless if it's books. But any other purchases, I mull over it. So like when I did it, I was like, all right, you got to do this for at least a year. Like, you have to do this for a year. And thankfully I did, and it caught on. And I never thought it would be where it is now. And I never thought I would be reading as much as I do now, even though I loved reading. Like, the fact that I've read Realm of the Elderlings in about 6 months to me is like, what?
Oh, for sure. My reading, I've never read this much since starting the channel. It's great. It's a lot of pressure to read more, but it's good.
What all are you reading right now?
I'm reading. What am I reading? I'm still reading The Gap, but I'm taking a break between the second and the third book. I started Wheel of Time like the other day. I'm going to finish Eye of the World. I'm going to finish Song of Susanna. I need to finish Rhythm of War. What else?
Man, you're in deep.
There's more. Like, I juggle books around. So I also love what I really like. I love talking about like more obscure books, and I check out books from the library all the time. So even though I'm reading these big fantasy series, I'm always reading like Elmore Leonard and like crime fiction, and like I'm obsessed with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're always mentioning Elmore. Always.
Oh man, Elmore Leonard. Like, man, the dialogue, it's such a great break too. Like, I really suggest, like, if you're having like getting through the slog, or you're having a tough time with just like really drawn out stories, read an Elmore Leonard novel. It's like 200 pages, and it's just like fast paced. Like, there's no wasted description. Every single word is like utterly necessary. Get Shorty. Yeah, I read that recently. It's a good one. George Simenon. Yeah, I need to read some more Simenon. I've been reading what's his name? Another French crime writer, like in the 70s. He wrote Nada. Jean-Patrick Manchette. So
I've never heard that name in my life.
Yeah, I'm getting a little obscure here, but I like French crime, I've discovered.
That's cool. Yeah. That's really cool. I feel like for me, when I'm getting a fantasy burnout, I always reach for Stephen King. I go, let's just dip into the horde a little bit, right? Like,
but it's still fantasy.
It is. It's true. Hey, Gorb, thank you so much. Shout out to Jake's wife for being so supportive.
Oh, that's really nice.
That's awesome. Gorb, thank you for being supportive and being here, and for the 10 spot. That's incredibly generous.
Gorb is wonderful, and thank you. Yeah, that's really nice, Gorb, for saying that. And my wife is going to love that comment.
Yes. Question here, Jimmy, have you seen Fighting with My Family? I think that's the wrestling docudrama thing about Paige, and I have not, actually. I don't really watch wrestling anymore. One, because it kind of makes me sad, and then two, I don't find the product as it's not what I like in wrestling. If me and you flip on 80s wrestling from like Mid-South, we're good. I'm in. Or late 90s, early 2000s, but the product nowadays, no, not to hate on it or anything, I just don't find it to be appeasing. So plus I'm reading all the time, so
And I used to watch I used to watch movies all the time, like classic. Like
Mhm.
I'm a huge movie buff, old movies all the time, but I don't anymore because I'm reading.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite movie?
Man, there's too many to name. I love I love Robert Altman movies. Like in Nashville is one of my favorite movies. McCabe and Mrs. Miller. I love John Ford, like The Searchers, and old westerns are kind of like fun. I love The Night of the Hunter. That's an old Robert Mitchum movie. Really creepy.
Yeah, see, I love westerns. I haven't seen a ton. Like I'm not an expert or anything, but that was like one thing about The Dark Tower that sucked me in immediately that some people hate. But I was like, man, I don't know. Just the idea of just falling across the desert, man in the black, like, whew.
Yeah, I'm a huge Western, and it's kind of like my upbringing, like growing up in Arizona, like my dad and like my uncles, they're all like wannabe cowboys. So I grew up watching, like I was literally named after like John Wayne movies. Like it's kind of embarrassing, but yeah. So I like westerns for sure.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan. I remember watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with my dad, and just thinking it was like the most epic thing I had ever seen. And then hearing like King's inspirations, like how he talks how it started out with Lord of the Rings being his inspiration, but then like he thought of like The Good, Bad, and the Ugly and John Wayne and stuff like that. It's just two very interesting inspirations for a series that is so hard to pin on what it is.
And I love it because there is that like sociopathic element to the like, and of course like the American mythology and how like screwed up it is, and how like King really taps into that with Roland. It's just wonderful. Bye, Alan.
See ya, Alan. Yeah, I thought that the way Roland was portrayed, especially in book 1 of The Dark Tower, I was like, I'm not sure he is the good guy. Like, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be rooting for this gentleman.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I keep meaning to read Lonesome Dove since that writer died not long ago.
Lonesome Dove. Yeah, Larry McMurtry's a really good writer.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never read it, and I don't know anybody who has.
Western novels. I read a great Western book recently. Oh, look at that question. Right, even before I start talking about it, even before Darren. I will say I just read Butcher's Crossing not too long ago, and that's by John Williams, not the composer. But he wrote like not a lot in his life. But Butcher's Crossing is a Western. It's very grim but super realistic, and like made me depressed for like a week. But it's so good. Oh, it's so good. And what's another one? Oh, another Elmore Leonard.
I was kind of waiting on it.
He wrote Westerns. Elmore Leonard wrote Westerns early in his career before writing crime fiction. And he wrote a book called 40 Lashes Less One. Fun fact, it's been optioned by Quentin Tarantino, I think. So who knows if that'll be made into a movie, but it's a fun Western.
You mentioned that in a recent video, didn't you?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think I remember you. Unless if someone else was talking about Quentin Tarantino acquiring those rights, it might have been.
I don't think anyone else was talking about
anybody else. Darren, thank you for the 5 spot. I really, really appreciate that. It's someone saying that's on my TBR. Butcher's Crossing, John Williams of Stoner fame, and the Ben Barry narratives are really good too.
Huh.
I'm always down to read a good Western. No Disclaimer wants to know if we have any thoughts on Star Wars. I'm late to the game. Right before the third one came out, I actually went and watched third Disney one came out. I went and watched all Star Wars movies.
No, really?
Yeah, they were. The original trilogy was really good. I don't like the prequels. I thought they were pretty bad. And unpopular opinion, I actually don't hate the Disney stuff. I understand why people hate it, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like Rise of Skywalker didn't make any sense really, but like I don't know. Force Awakens was sick, and I thought there were some interesting decisions made in The Last Jedi. That didn't make any sense in the grand scheme of the trilogy because they didn't have a plan, which is insanity.
It is insanity, and unlike you, I grew up on Star Wars, so I love Star Wars. I've always loved Star Wars. The original trilogy was like everything to me. I was never got into the prequels except for the third one. I really like. They're like campy and fun, but yeah, they're not like they don't they don't have the same kind of emotional resonance as the original trilogy. And the new ones, I liked episode 7 when it came out. I think just the fun of like, oh my God, we finally have Star Wars again. That was like, unreal. Like now it feels like Star Wars is everywhere again, and it's kind of annoying. But like I remember when it came out in like 2015, I think that was huge, and I was so excited, and it was fun. You know, it was just like, this is like old school Star Wars. It was cool. The Last Jedi I liked, but I actually really loved it. Like the more I've seen it, I really appreciate what it's doing. I like what they were doing with Kylo Ren and like with Luke Skywalker, even though it was a strong decision. I thought it was an interesting one. But I always felt like with The Last Jedi, I'm like, it's going to depend how they conclude this series. Yeah. Like either The Last Jedi is going to become like a classic, depending on how they conclude the series, or it's going to be like really weird. Unfortunately, then I saw The Rise of Skywalker, and I was like, this is, I felt heartbroken. Like it was so painful. It's what I imagine Game of Thrones fans went through. I mean, it was so, I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like I was laughing in theater. I was like, is this real life? Because it was like, it really showed like there was absolutely no coherence in that trilogy, no planning. And then, it was like two filmmakers arguing with each other.
Yeah.
They're like, this is Star Wars. No, this is Star Wars. No, this is Star Wars. Like,
yeah, I thought that they made a lot of like pretty brave, bold decisions in Last Jedi, and then just kind of crapped on it at the end. And like, again, you know, there was the epicness of it being the finale, but after you leave and you think about it, you're just like, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. I still like, for entertainment value, it is what it is to me.
Man, I hate it so much. Like it hurts my soul. Like somehow Palpatine returned. Screenwriting 101. Yeah. Like when I remember sitting in theater watching the scroll, and it was like, Palpatine has risen from the dead or something like that. And I was like,
you were like, wait, what?
Strong choice. Hold on, everybody. Let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. And it was just like, I wanted to die. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's kind of how season 8 was. You're right. That's kind of how it was. Deckard Rifle says, how far are you in the Dark Tower? I have finished it. And then Jake, you're into Song of Susanna, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And me and Jake, I plan on having Jake on to talk about Dark Tower, and we're going to talk about like some heavy spoilers, because the ending to everyone is very polarizing. Spoiler, I enjoyed it. That's all I'll say. I really enjoyed it. I can see why some people won't, but it'll be interesting to see where you land with it, and then have people that.
I'm ready for anything. I just, whatever happens, like the weirder the better for me. I'm like, you know what? I feel like it's been such a weird series. Just go off the rails, Stephen King. I don't care. Just do what you want. I'm here for it.
See, that was me. I took my hands off the wheel and I said, take me where you want, side. Let's go. We're on the journey. And I just, like anything he did at the end, it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter. I shouldn't say it didn't matter, but it was just like, like you said, I'm ready for anything. Yeah. Like I'm just, throw the kitchen sink at me and see how I react, because that's kind of what that series is. It's like really being invited to the deepest depths of Stephen King's messed up imagination.
Yeah, it really is.
What a journey. What a journey. I feel a little guilty because I've been talking about Robin Hobb so much on my channel and not enough about Dark Tower, because I've been reading Dark Tower along with it. And it's like, people I think Dark Tower is like, no, I think Dark Tower is phenomenal. I just haven't had as much content for it. Like, it's insane to me that I was reading two series at the same time, which are two of the best series I've ever read. You know what I mean? Like, how do you balance those things? I think I was more surprised by Realm of the Elderlings, and that's why it's had more. I knew I was probably going to enjoy Dark Tower because I love Stephen King. Like, unapologetically love Stephen King. I know some people don't, but he's my jam.
Also, everyone knows about Dark Tower for the most part.
That's true.
You know? So you're doing good work with the Robin Hobb stuff and getting people to know about it.
Going to bat. It's the only author I really want to interview.
Oh, does she do interviews?
Probably not. She lives in Alaska, or no, she lives in the state of Washington now. She grew up in Alaska, and she's very personal. She doesn't do a lot of media. She does have a wonderful talk for anyone who's interested. They have a talk between George R. Martin and Robin Hobb, and it is phenomenal. And it's hosted by their editor because they share an editor. And hearing the editor talk to them in the regard that she holds both of them is really cool. So Hobb and George are friends. And it's kind of awesome to hear them talk and George to like fawn over some of her characters. It's really cool.
That's really nice. I love hearing about like authors being friends. Like, I was listening to some Sanderson thing the other day where he was talking about how when Harriet, Robert Jordan's widow, reached out to him about finishing the series, and apparently the only two people on the list for finishing the series was George R.R. Martin and him. And apparently they went with him because she was worried about people being upset because George R.R. Martin hadn't finished his own series, and imagine him taking on this other series, And so I think that decision paid off. I can't imagine George R.R. Martin finishing The Wheel of Time.
Yeah, and he shouldn't have, right? People also say that like it kind of baffles me when people are like, "You think Sanderson will finish the Song of Ice and Fire?" It's like, what world do you think that would happen? Like, it would be terrible. And also, Brandon has made it very clear that he is not a fan of A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't think he has anything personal against George, but it's not for him. He's
well, and I haven't even read it, but I understand the tone. It's like I can't picture Sanderson going into that world, and I don't like how people are like, well, Sanderson will finish, Patrick Rothfuss series and all this stuff, and it's like, I think Sanderson was the one person who could finish The Wheel of Time probably because he went to the school of Robert Jordan. He learned everything from Robert Jordan. His style is in a lot of ways similar to Robert Jordan. So, but anything else, it's hard to picture.
Yeah. I totally agree. And, Sanderson also has his own thing now. He doesn't need to do
that now. He wouldn't need to.
Look at Dr. Philip Chase coming in. Dark Tower is excellent. No one stares as unflinchingly at the human condition as Stephen King. I agree. And also, no one writes better children than Stephen King, and no one writes better death scenes than Stephen King. Stephen King can write the last breaths of a human's life that you've never met or even care about in the story, and it be impactful. It's incredible.
Yeah, children. What I loved about reading The Shining was Danny Torrance's chapters. Yeah, you're so right. Getting into the heads of children, and also Jake Chambers and The Dark Tower. Just love it. Love it.
The Jake chapters, also Pet Cemetery, and the kid perspective there, and the impact that grief has on a family. I mean, my God, it's absurd. Nobody writes addiction like King. I agree with that.
Oh man, that's another reason why I love the drawing of the three. Yeah, I don't want to say spoilers or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, when we do that, I mean, I have like so many notes stored away in my phone that I wrote down, like, I got to talk about this. Like, I think that's going to be one of the most worthwhile conversations that I'm going to have on the channel, and I'm really, really excited. Coming of age story is a strength that King that goes with that. Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know. People kind of cheapen King in a way. I know he's written a lot of stinkers, but here's the thing. I mean, the dude is the biggest fiction writer in Western history, right? Like, he has to be. And there's something about his writing that just connects with the only thing I can understand, and this is specifically calling out Dark Tower. There's so many American culture references that I could see why in a global setting that somebody would say, what's the point of this? Like, or what's the big deal? But there's so many little nuggets of pop culture stuff from like American history. And I love that stuff. I really, really like that stuff. And I bet you do too, because he puts in so many, like literary references.
And like old movie tropes and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
He'll call himself out when he's stealing stuff. He'll be like, he did this just like John Wayne did. And it's like, oh, he's like acknowledging his, he's wearing it on his sleeve. And I love that.
Or yeah, like when Blaine the Mono just starts doing John Wayne impression. It's like, I get how creepy that must be so chilling. Like I can picture that perfectly. It's amazing.
Dude, yeah. Salem's Lot gave me nightmares, though. I like what Mr. Panther said here. Everyone shits on Tommyknockers. He does as well, but still one of my favorite King books. I love that King is so mean to himself. He's so
I love that.
mean to himself.
And I think that's a healthy thing for like an artist to have about their own work, where it's just like to him. And he said this, like, once he's written a book, it's like it's past. It's like not his anymore. It's just like he's on to the next thing. And what I love about, I'd rather have a writer who occasionally writes some stinkers than like imagine not having all of the books Stephen King has. And for some people, Tommyknockers is their favorite book. You know, it's like some people, Dreamcatcher is their favorite book, and it's like you can't predict it. You know, you don't know what's going to connect with some people.
Yeah, they're still bestsellers, folks. Like they still were. I think all of his books are bestsellers, right? I don't think he's had one single one that hasn't been a bestseller.
I don't think so.
Yeah. He's just. You could probably do a 3-hour podcast on his strengths. Is how I feel, because there's so many different little things that he does, and elderly and kids. The things that we saw in chat mentioned, I think, are two of his strong suits, because a lot of people write really cruddy kids, especially in fantasy. Oh my god. The kids only thing, I think I lean away from it whenever I try to write stuff, because I'm terrified of it. And I know George Martin said the hardest perspective he ever had to write was Bran, because he's an 8-year-old boy, or wherever. I think he might have been even younger in the book, 6 or 7. He's like, how do you write that? Like, you don't remember being 6. Nobody does.
Yeah, especially without making them sound annoying.
Yes.
Bradbury has good kids. That's a good point.
Oh, okay. You know, you said annoying, and I have to bring it up, because you're always eating pancakes, just like a certain character from the Stormlight archive named Lift. The most hated character I've ever seen.
Lift does not deserve it. Lift, justice for Lift.
I would love to give you this time to defend Lift, and change my mind, because oh man, not a fan.
Look, I like things that are hated. Like there's something, like if something gets so much hate, like I just want to love it, you know? Like a book that like part of why I want to read The Wheel of Time is because I want to read the slog, and then I want to do a video talking about why the slog is the best part of the series. Just because, even if it's not, like I just want to do it just because, like I'm just very arbitrary like that, I guess. And Lift, I don't know. There's something about Lift. Like the series is so heavy, and like Lift is so out of nowhere. It's just like from a different world. I love that. It's like she's talking about saying like awesome, and like just like, I don't know. It's fun. It's funny. Also, another thing I've noticed, a lot of people who hate Lift read or listen to the audiobooks. I think for some, that may contribute for some people who don't like how Lift is read or something. I really like I like reading Lift. So
yeah, it's weird. So I didn't like Lift. I don't like Lift. To be clear, I don't like Lift, but I did enjoy Edge Dancer. Like I didn't hate Edge Dancer as a book. I was just I was pretty apathetic towards it, where I was like, well, that was a thing. And I thought Dawn Shard was awesome. I really enjoyed Dawn Shard. But yeah, Lift, I got to put this out there. I concede that while I don't like her right now, that there is a chance by the end of the Stormlight archive that I could probably get around to liking. You know what I'm saying? Like, she has a lot of room to grow, is I guess what I'm saying. And he could definitely take this character on purpose, make about 50% of us hate her, and then by the end be like, oh my God, what an arc. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably going to happen.
I really think so too. And Lift is getting older, and comparing Lift to the slog, you never know what's going to happen. But I feel like, because what's the gap going to be between book 5 and 6 in Stormlight?
I know of it, but I always forget. Can someone in chat tell me? I know there's someone here that knows. Where's the Christian? Lost in Discovery. How many years are going to be between books 5 and 6?
15 years or something. I know it's going to be a long stretch of time, but I feel like Lift is going to be like an older character in those books, potentially.
Jake seems very uplifting.
Thank you.
I did think that Dalinar made Lift more tolerable. I actually agree. Yeah. I didn't do audio for Stone. She's still sucks.
Damn.
People seem to say it's
I like her even more. The more people talk about how much she sucks, I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man. It looks like it's about 10 to 15 years. So she's gonna grow up, and Brandon's already said that she's gonna be a major player.
Oh,
so I don't think she's going. I'm just saying I could see, book 8, 9, 10. She ends up being lovable, and I look back and I go, I was wrong, and everyone gets to go, we told you. You'll be able to come on the channel. By the time Stormlight's finished, I'll probably have a fake hip, and my hair will be gone.
No, I hope people still hate her. It's just fun for me.
I liked Lift before she was cool, man.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Wait, Lift isn't Lift's thing that she doesn't grow up. What does it? I feel like that's gonna. Yeah, I can't say anything. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what? I hope that like the second half of Stormlight is just all Lift POVs. That's what you people deserve. It's just Lift after Lift after Lift.
I mean, I'd be happy with that, so that I don't have to spend money on the books. I can just not read them.
I feel like you're done already. I feel like you're like, any excuse.
Any excuse, I'll put them down. I can't fit anymore. It's done. I got the leatherback Way of Kings. I can gatekeep everybody now.
Literally, honestly, like I was hesitant to buy Rhythm of War like right when it bought up because I'm like, I want to wait for the paperback so it's at least a little smaller. It's so huge.
I have the first 3 in trade paperback and then the 4th in hardcover. Now I'm like, I guess I gotta buy the hardcovers. God damn it.
Oh no, come on.
Well, at least Lift doesn't abuse as a love triangle like Thymara and Raywells. Yes, that is correct. And Thymara is a blight on the realm of the Elderlings, and I hate her.
Oh,
here we go. Who are your top 3 Stormlight characters?
Oh man. I'm gonna say I don't know. I really like Shallan. I really do. Mm-hmm. And I started to sour on Shallan a little bit in book 3, in Oathbringer, because I feel like her character is starting. I feel like a lot of the characters' growth started to tread water a little bit in Oathbringer, like Kaladin and stuff. But yeah, I mean the main ones I really love. Shallan. You know who's a character I'm not crazy about? That's Yasna.
Really? Yasna might be my favorite.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like she's mean.
She's mean.
I think she's interesting, but I also feel like part of me, because I really identify with Shallan in a lot of ways, and that just kind of like having that teacher who will just like never validates you, just being like, oh God.
Yeah.
But I really I'd say Shallan, Kaladin, and I don't know,
Dalinar.
Yeah, I mean those are the main guys. I don't know.
Right. Yeah,
I never creative. I mean, I have like favorite side characters, but I feel like of course Dalinar is great.
Yeah, I think for me it's like Yasna, Zeth, and Yasna, Zeth, and Dalinar. And also Taravangian, or Vangian. How do you say it? Taravangian?
Yes.
Yeah. Taravangian is one of my favorite antagonists of all time. Honestly.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's really, really good. And that's something that Sanderson's gotten a lot better at, is his antagonists are so much better than they used to be in his old writing. And it's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the strengths of Stormlight. And I love Kaladin, by the way. I just don't pick him because it's Kaladin, right? So also Wit's great. Wit
is great. Yeah. I love Sadius. I mean, Sadius in the Way of Kings is excellent.
Your skit with Sadius is amazing.
When the thing happens.
Yeah, it's really good.
I almost spoiled it. I feel so bad. Like I almost said it out loud. I forget that people haven't read it.
Yeah. Everyone's got to get caught up on stuff. I'm going to be interested to see where you end up with book 4, because I think some of the problems that were in book 3 are worse in book 4. Some people disagree with me, though. I'm certainly not the the end all be all on that, but
it's been interesting seeing the reception of book 4, because I feel like it's been generally like I haven't seen any super crazy positive reviews of book 4.
I've seen some, but it tends to be people who are all in on the Cosmere, which is fine. I don't have any problems with that. For someone who is, I mean, I read the Cosmere, but it's I'm not into Stormlight for all of the connections per se. At least not at this point. Um, it was my least favorite. It was definitely my least favorite.
Well, yeah, I'm not like I haven't read a ton of the Cosmere, so I feel like some of the connections I'm not gonna connect. I'm not gonna know about. And in general, yeah, like if you're a Stormlight fan, if you're a Cosmere fan, there's nothing Sanderson can do that's going to turn you away.
Which is fine, right? Like I'm reading Fire and Blood by George. It's a history book he made up, and it's awesome. But like,
you're gonna love everything he writes, no matter what.
Like I'm probably gonna like it, right? Like, let's just be honest. Or Robin Hobb at this point, right? Tad Williams is, one thing about Tad Williams is he wrote a urban portal fantasy that is not in my realm. Urban portal fantasy, not my thing.
That's kind of like Drawing of the Three, though, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, and then King flipped it on its head. And now I'm like, man, I love it. I'll tell you what, Brent's actually, if you love really boring made up science for pages and pages and pages, it's great. That was my problem with Rhythm of the War. That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, that's not. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but there is some good. There's definitely some good, and I think Kaladin's great. I'm not out on it or anything. I was pretty.
The beginning so far. The beginning is great so far.
Yeah, I thought it started really strong. It was like the middle to the last third of it that I kind of started to stutter out. But I said this at the top of the broadcast. I felt like I was really burned out. I was burned out on Sanderson because I went from Oathbringer right into Rhythm of War. And I was just like, my eyes were peeling out of my head. I was like, I need to read anybody else, like anything else.
Yeah, I'm glad I kind of paused for a second. I was like, no. Bad idea.
That was a really good move.
Yeah.
All right, man. We're hitting almost 3 hours. I'm not going to take up much more of your time here. This has been awesome. It's been
fun, man. Yeah. I'm surprised it's been 3 hours. It's crazy.
I know it never feels like it, and it's funny. I mean, we've never had a talk before, and no. I felt like I was speaking to an old friend or something. So I really appreciate you coming on and spending I guess it's 7:21, right?
Yeah, it's like 7:30 out here.
The night is young in LA. What are you gonna do? You gonna go out dancing? Gonna get tacos? What are you doing?
I'm probably gonna watch a movie with my wife and then edit until 4 a.m.
That sounds like the life, man. That sounds like the booktuber life.
That's the booktuber life. It's been so awesome. Like, thank you so much for having me. This is a fun conversation. Thank you to everyone in chat for calling me out on my lift appreciation. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone had a good time. Everyone's excited for the Minecraft 10K. Good communion with the nut god. There's people that are trying to get this nut god thing going, and unfortunately, it's starting to catch on.
Nut god. Let's keep it going.
It sounds like something from like Brazzers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if YouTube will monetize.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want to get demonetized from Nut God.
Oh man, thank you, Jake. I'm subscribed. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed to Jake's channel, please do. Man carrying thing. You're gonna fall in love with his skits, but you'll stay for his reviews. I know I have, and I always appreciate the perspective that you bring, Jake. And I think that you're definitely one of the must-see channels here on the platform. And you're welcome back, quite literally anytime.
Oh, thanks, man. And I feel the same about your channel. And I had a great time being here. So thank you.
I'm really glad. You got anything you want to plug? Anything coming down the pipe? You have a Patreon, right?
I do have a Patreon, yeah. I don't have anything else to plug. Go watch Andy Smith videos. I'm plugging Andy Smith.
Hell yeah. Andy Smith's a good dude. And anybody here, I do have a Patreon. I do have a Discord that links to the Patreon, as well as being able for the secretary, you get to vote on my TBR whenever I post those polls. And then I do a monthly hangout for all my Kingsguard people. So if you want to check that out, totally optional. You don't have to, but it's a good way to support the channel if you feel so inclined. And I appreciate all the support, just watching, subscribing, and liking, and all that good stuff. Jake, thank you again. I really appreciate you, and I
Thank
appreciate
you. And to everyone, if you're already subscribed to Jimmy Nuts, probably, but make a new account, get a bunch of fake email accounts, subscribe to him. Let's just keep the nut god train moving.
That's right. And check out Lord of Ring and Ruin over on Daniel Green's channel. That was an excellent
Go check
skit.
that out.
It's good. All right, everyone, have a great night, and thank you so much. I really can't stress to you how much I appreciate you guys listening to these conversations. This is my favorite thing to do. It's literally my favorite thing going on. But I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe. And until next time, remember to always keep turning the page.